And we are live on all platforms. Just connecting in. This should be a fun show. We are just connecting into LinkedIn. Give us 30 seconds and we should be with you. For one person on the stream, this is always great to see. Thank you so much for joining. Welcome to the Ventureverse. Welcome to the live show. We are just confirming that everything is working as required. And we have no issues with the live. Now, amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ventureverse. This is episode 2 of the live stream. Congrats, we've made it. We have again a stacked docket, and hopefully we're going for a back-to-back with today and tomorrow live streaming live on LinkedIn and YouTube. As always, we're going to start with the news. We're going to give you a weekly recap and some of the top stories, and then we're going to get into our guest segments. We have a stacked docket, and I'm looking forward to having these guests on to talk about the work that they're doing, the businesses that they're building, and the incredible companies and thoughts that they have, and some of the guerrilla marketing tactics that they have going on. But most importantly, we have some breaking news. The billion-dollar brain trust, Meta's AI talent raid, and Zuck's leadership crucible. Meta has poached Apple's AI chief for millions as Zuck is continuing to build a team, an elite team under pressure to deliver. It has seemed that Meta has got and poached Apple's head of models. As a result, he has been traded over to Apple. So far, that means that Zuck's recent recruiting victories include Alexander Wang, former CEO of Scale AI, valued at $14.3 billion, who now leads Meta's superintelligence lab as chief AI officer. We have Daniel Gross, former CEO of Safe Superintelligence and seasoned AI entrepreneur. We have Nat Friedman, former GitHub CEO with deep connections throughout the developer ecosystem. Yuhan Z. Lee, a theoretical mathematician and researcher poached from OpenAI, and Anton Bakhatin, who has previously worked on Anthropic's Claude Assistant. Meta's Llama 4 released earlier this year and failed to deliver the disruptive impact that industry observers anticipated. It was a great model. It did a lot of the work, but I think they're still building the foundations of something absolutely incredible inside the Meta ecosystem. This underwhelming reception has created significant pressure on the Meta AI strategy, especially as the company continues to invest billions in its metaverse vision, while competitors like OpenAI and Anthropic cement their leadership positions with models that consistently outperform Meta's offering in key benchmarks. A former Meta executive who has requested anonymity has said that the next 12 months represent a critical juncture for Zuck's technical leadership. I have no doubt that Zuckerberg will absolutely have a solid, world-class technical team building the future of open source models. But it is very important that this happens in the next 12 months. He's assembled possibly the most expensive engineering team in corporate history. And if they are not able to produce market-leading models now, serious questions will emerge about the technology vision. I think there's a play here that they're making with metaverse and AI, and it will come into fruition over the next few years. AI is the catalyst for the metaverse vision that Zuck and Meta has. And I think we'll begin to see that as a lot of these new models come out, especially with their video models and their image models, and a lot more of the Facebook in Meta ecosystem opening up to developers and new companies building on top of that infrastructure. For Apple, Tang's departure represents yet another setback in its struggling AI division. Under his leadership, the Apple's foundational model team developed Genmoji priority notifications and on-device text summarization for the recently launched, or maybe not so recently launched, Apple Intelligence Suite. The exit follows early departures, including that of Tom Gunther. The exodus has prompted internal restructuring, with Zifen Chan assuming leadership of the Apple Foundation Models team under a more distributed management structure. I would not count Apple out. They are an incredible company at building hardware and software. And while some people have said that they don't innovate and they haven't been innovating over the last couple of years, I cannot see a world where Apple does not exist. They are the protagonist in all things smartphone. And as a result, have built and curated an experience for a significant chunk of mobile users and laptop users and iPad users. And let's be honest, when Craig Federighi got up and talked about in that interview, I think it was Bloomberg, he said that, well, why do we need another hardware device? We know you've got your AirPods, you've got your Apple Watch, Siri can integrate into that. It's a shame that it's taken this long. Maybe there is some technical issues that they're working through and they haven't had the talent to be able to do that. That does not mean that they're out of the race. They have the hardware, they have the distribution to give it to people, and the new iPhones have the ability to power AI. Moving swiftly on. One of the biggest news out of both the Valley, New York, the US, Europe, Asia, Soham Parekh, the serial Moonlights Silicon Valley startup engineer that YC startups just can't stop hiring. This guy's been moonlighting for about 6 different YC startups. The saga all started when the CEO of an image generation startup, Playground AI, shared a post last week, Tuesday, on X that began, PSA. There's a guy named Soham Parekh in India who works at 3 or 4 startups at the same time that has been preying on YC companies and more. Doshi claims that roughly a year ago, he fired Parekh from Playground AI after finding out he was working and moonlighting at other companies. I told him to stop lying and scamming to people. He hasn't stopped a year later. The post from Doshi received roughly 20 million likes, views, and has prompted several other founders to share their run-ins with Parekh as well. Flo Crivello of Lindy, a startup that helps people automate their workflows with AI, said that he hired Parekh in recent weeks, but fired him in the light of Doshi's tweet. Holy shit, we hired this guy a week ago, fired this morning. He did so incredibly well in interviews, must have a lot of training. Careful out there. People are moonlighting with startups at the moment. They have this ability. They are world-class engineers who want to take equity and maybe not salary. And so as a result, could potentially build a dev shop, can outsource some of that work to the team that they overlook and oversee. And I think if he had set up a dev shop, maybe in India with some world-class engineers that can help companies go from 0 to 1, actually might have been a better situation. Parekh has also seemed to work at Sync Labs, a startup that makes AI lip syncing tools, and he's even starred in a promotional video. He was ultimately let go there as well. Haz Hubble out of Pali, who's also a guest on the show in its previous renditions, posted on Twitter something weird about when we offered Soham. He was very pro-equity versus salary, like dramatically so. Maybe because he knows what founders want to hear, but it doesn't fit what he's trying to earn as much money as possible if he knows he's going to get fired shortly after. Seems like they are missing a trick here. He's missing a trick here. He thinks that the spying and IP theft theory is looking more likely in this situation. Stay vigilant out there. We know the Valley is a scary place from time to time. It turns out that Parekh has done very well in many of these interviews and as a result has received offers. It's very weird this is happening. Is he a plant? Do you think that the Valley's put him in as a plant to drum up engagement and have stories to talk about? Or is this actually something that isn't a plant and he's actually been doing this for decades? I doubt that he's a plant, given that there is a number of different people who have tuned in from private multi-billion-dollar CEOs to startups, as well as Gary Tan as well. But if it is, would be the most hilarious thing in the world, let's be honest. Roy Lee from Cluely tells TechCrunch that he interviewed Parekh twice for the role, and he interviews quite well and has some very good React knowledge, referencing a popular JavaScript library for building user interfaces. Cluely did not hire Parekh and did not move forward, but it seems like Many others did. The boys over at TBPN have had the inside lines interviewing Parekh, and he admitted that he's working at multiple jobs simultaneously since 2022. He was not using AI tools or hiring junior software engineers to assist him in his workload. He believes that it's taken a toll, but as a result, he is now a much better programmer. The co-host of TBPN asked why Parekh didn't just ask one company to raise his salary, but help with his financial struggles. Parekh said he'd like to keep a boundary between his professional and private life. I have no idea why this is the play he's made. It's very, very odd that this is happening. And more than likely, I think there are some other forces at play here that the world doesn't know about, and that private and professional life have been kept separate. What now? Parekh announced his newest employer, as he claims to be exclusively working with at Darwin Studios, a startup working on AI video remixing. Their CEO posted about it, but has since deleted the tweet. Let's see if the work that he does actually pays off. Let's see if he's as good as everyone says he is. Let's see if he can take a startup from 0 to 1 and be that incredibly talented engineer people say he is. In other news, Revolut is yet to receive the key credit license from UK regulators. Permission to offer credit cards to 11 million British customers is still pending as the fintech nears its first anniversary of becoming a bank. Congrats, Revolut. We're looking forward to you playing with the big boys, given that you are already and the dominant force in most of the world, well, at least Europe and the UK and possibly Asia at some point. Congrats, right? You need that banking license. Monzo has one, Starling has one, I think Starling has one. I think it's time. I don't know why you're not receiving the green light yet, and the financial regulators are not giving you that consumer credit services, but I am sure it will come soon. The consumer credit license is separate from the Revolut's UK banking license, which it secured last year from the PRA, the Prudential Regulation Authority. However, the restrictions limit the deposits Revolut's banking unit is allowed to accept at a tiny £50,000 total. The credit application highlights that Revolut is still awaiting several regulatory permissions to become a fully fledged lender in the UK. The company already offers consumer credit services in several EU markets, including credit cards, the ability to pay in installments in Ireland, Poland, and Lithuania, and it plans to launch similar services in the UK, but has accepted that it is likely to be delayed after it receives its full banking license. The restrictions in place as long as Revolut remains in the PRA's so-called mobilization stage, which means that in addition to the 50,000 total deposit limit, the fintech cannot extend loans to customers. It needs to meet certain requirements to exit mobilization and operate as a bank. The mobilization period cannot continue indefinitely and should take no longer than 12 months. Revolut has declined to say if it would exit mobilization yet. Let's get them on the phone. Let's get some of the team and their PR team on the show to talk about this. But the ambition is to make Revolut the bank of choice for UK customers, offering products and services that improve their financial lives. First off, what a bank, what a company. Incredible. They have been growing at an alarmingly fast rate and been dealing with it incredibly well. I think they have grown over 2 million customers a month in the last year and are continuing down that stream of just growing at an incredible rate. Revolut. OpenAI has clamped down on security after foreign spying threats. The artificial intelligence group has added fingerprint scans and hired military experts to protect important data. It's overhauled its security operations as, according to several people close to the $300 billion artificial intelligence company, they believe that their after DeepSeek had improperly copied the California-based company's models using a technique known as distillation to release a rival AI system. Obviously, DeepSeek has not commented. The episode prompted OpenAI to be much more rigorous, said one person close to the security team, and Altman has been aggressively expanding its security personnel and practices, including cybersecurity teams. This is Very, very, very interesting. One, I'm not sure why the UK doesn't have its own model company. It's a shame. Europe has Mistral, America has Grok, OpenAI, Anthropic, God knows who else at this point, who models popping up left, right, and center, and Meta's, Llama's models, open source models. China has their models. I think it's time that the UK and Europe get some more models of their own. OpenAI insiders have said that the startup has been implementing stricter policies. The policies known as information tenting significantly reduce the number of people who access the novel algorithms being developed. So is this that you go to a computer and you scan your fingerprint and then are able to work on the models? You check in and check out the models, same as GitHub, or is there something slightly more complicated? Is it this like vault room that you walk into and only can sit at a terminal and do it? I doubt, but it would be very cool if that was very, almost like Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible 1, where he dives in and has to get the black, was it the blacklist? The knock list from that single terminal. The strict approach had made work difficult for some staff. It got very tight. You either had everything or nothing. They added that over time, more people being read on things they will need to be without being read in on others. Obviously, these models have an incredible amount of proprietary information, and with the transfers and moving about of different engineers, world-class engineers at this moment in time, maybe they're taking some of that information with them. It's not just in their heads. So it's super important that these model companies are protecting their IP, as we all should. This would be a great cybersecurity ad right here. The UK has a wealth exodus. A wealth exodus gathers pace as the UK policies drive millionaires abroad. It seems like our Labour government is doing this. A wide range of wealth management clients prepare to leave, according to the survey. A growing number have signaled their intention to relocate from the UK this year as concerns over tax and pension reforms prompt an exodus. It's not great for the UK economy if we have that upper echelon of society leaving and taking and moving away and not being able to tax them, and them not building businesses in the UK and creating employment and adding to our GDP. It does not leave us in a great position as the UK. They're probably moving over to companies like Italy, Switzerland, the UAE, Saudi. The UK is projected to lose 16,500 high net worth individuals this year, worth nearly 92 billion in investable assets, representing 9% of this group, according to the Henley Private Wealth Migration Report. Of UK millionaires, 26% are either very or somewhat likely to change their tax domicile within 12 months, reported by a syndicate study by Savant, the market research group. This figure rises to 29% among those holding more than 5 million investable assets. All I can say is this is a great situation to be in for us. The Labour government has also decided to close a loophole that allowed non-DOMs the use of offshore trusts to avoid inheritance tax, which means their worldwide assets are now exposed to the tax of 40% under rules that came into force in April. As mentioned previously, many will likely leave the UK for tax-friendly regimes, the UAE, Italy, and Switzerland. But Chancellor Rachel Reeves was exploring a reverse of the nom-nom crackdown, as the shrinking tax bracket from the rich potentially puts pressure on public finances. We cannot afford to run our government without that tax income, and as a result, we need to find it from somewhere else. And if we have to reverse some of these policies, maybe that's a great position to be in, so that we can keep these business owners, these very high net worth individuals in the UK spending, building businesses, employing people, so that they can allocate that capital inside our economy and potentially Europe's economy. It's probably a good position to be in, rather than letting them fly over to other countries and let them do it there. But we want to attract those high net worth individuals, not push them away. And lastly, something culturally relevant. It's Wimbledon, if you didn't know, one of the premier tennis events on the planet, right? And the tennis players criticized AI technology used by Wimbledon. It's the first year that they have the new AI line judges, what they're calling the ELC, the electronic line calling system. Numerous players have criticized the AI technology, mostly for making incorrect calls, leading them to losing points. Notably, British tennis star Emma Raducanu called out the technology for missing a ball that her opponent hit out, but instead had to be played as if it were in. On the television replay, the ball indeed looked out. I was not at Wimbledon, but I can assume that that was absolutely horrible. We feel for Emma Raducanu. Jack Draper, the British #1, has said that he felt some line calls were wrong, saying that he doesn't believe the AI technology was 100% accurate. And Ben Shelton had to speed up his match after being told the new line system was about to stop working because of the dimming sunlight. Is it great that we've implemented it in a year where we haven't moved the games around to accommodate for this? Probably not. Is it a situation where it had to be tried? Yes. At some point, we're going to get used to this, just like in football, they got used to VAR, but maybe some of those changes will be relaxed, and just like VAR potentially will become relaxed over the coming years. And the rules will change around what this line technology actually means and the calls that it's making. It's a shame that AI is not 100% accurate, and that there is a bit of human error, a bit of technology error. But if you give it time, I'm sure with increased use of the tech, we'll be in a situation where we will be open and comfortable with using technology to play, right? And that trickling down into grassroots tournaments and things like that, right? That's the love of tech, right? That's why we love it. That's why we enjoy tech, because it starts at these premier prestigious events and then kind of goes down. In other news, Lando Norris won the F1 Grand Prix. Congrats, Lando. Big fan of the F1 as a whole. And so it's nice that we've got a great, not nice, it's absolutely epic that we've got a Silverstone British champion on the podium this year, and Nico Hulkenberg. In other news, we're going to hit the timeline. The CEO of the Deal Room, fresh off the press 3 days ago, the UK Innovation Update in partnership with HSBC Innovation Banking. AI now drives 30% of UK venture capital, a record high. $2.4 billion raised by AI startups in H1 alone, from Bood to Belfast. And UK VC is up 3% versus H2 of 2024. 1.3 trillion in enterprise value has been created by UK founded startups. We are on a tear. Let's keep it going. Health tech and fintech remain pillars with 2.3 billion each in 2025 funding. 14 mega rounds, 100 million in London, Cardiff, Glasgow, and Oxford. 68 Series A rounds showing depth in early growth layer. And still one challenge persists, he says: how to help scale-ups stay onshore as they hit breakout velocity. The UK is launching global winners, but needs to keep more of them home. The UK remains the #1 country in Europe by VC investment in H1. Second is Germany with $4.4 billion worth of VC investment. France is third with $3.2 billion. Spain, fourth with $2 billion. Sweden, 1.9 billion, shout out Lovable. Switzerland, 1.7 billion. Netherlands, 1.3 billion. Ireland, 731 million. Malta, 600 million. And Italy, 463 million. The UK, as mentioned, economy is worth a combined 1.3 trillion. The UK innovation economy is worth a combined 1.3 trillion. $600 billion of value is still pre-exit, including the decacorns in Revolut, Rapid, the Onograph Group, and blockchain.com. More than 50% of the ecosystem value comes from companies founded since 2010. That is incredible for the UK. Let's keep this work up. The AI startups are dotted right across the UK. 179 rounds were raised in H1 alone. 68 were raised in London, but 57 rounds were raised across the rest of the country. I'll see if I can loop this deck in. And the biggest UK venture capital rounds in H1 of 2025 are AI Discovery in London, Isoformic Laboratories, 600 million, Wealth Management London, 500 million, Biotech in London as well. Well, they're all in London. No, one is in Oxford. Vadiva Bio at 411 million Series A. Payments in Dojo, 190 million. It's a growth equity VC. Synthesia had a $180 million round, Series D round. Congratulations. Cloud Computing, Ori, 175 million late VC round. Fin Crime and Risk AI, Quantexa, 175 million. Payments from Zipa, 165 million, and medical devices in Oxford Organ XO, 160 million. What an incredible amount of capital being allocated in the UK at the moment. We are just getting ready for our next set of guests, or our first guest of the docket. Hopefully, this should be a lot of fun. But just before they log on, we've got one more piece of interesting things from the timeline. Vercel, Guillaume Roche, has just shared something in the last 24 hours on Twitter. Someone reached out to him via iMessage. Just had to share this with you. Paid a designer $400 for a landing page. He doesn't give me a Figma. He gives me a functional V0 link. When I asked him if he was a developer, he said he wasn't. But the new V0 design mode was just easier for him, and the client had to implement it. And the client that had to implement it. What does this mean? It means that the way that we build landing pages has completely changed, right? Are we going to be using a combination of Figma with V0, with Lovable, and if you're at different levels using these different AI products, or is it that you're building further up the stack in a Figma to begin with, if you're super great, innovative designer that's world-class at building incredible experiences, because the designer is more needed than ever before when we think about how do we use these AI products and how do we use the tools of the future. But imagine paying $400 and just getting a link instead of just getting the Figma link, right? And it's like you can just be deployed as fast as humanly possible. And then be riffed upon, and you commit to GitHub, and then bring that down into Cursor, and then just like vibe code your way into a very cool landing page. I think that's quite a lovely experience to have. And the Vercel models, or the V0 models that they're building on top as it continued to be used on the platform, and I'm sure Lovable is doing the same, where they figure out what great design looks like, what the nuances that need to be built within a website, whether that's the menu bar that needs to drop down, and instead of you having to prompt that, it just builds it and allows you to, subtract instead of have to consistently add. I like it. I'm here for the future. I love to use V0 and Lovable. Maybe we start doing a segment where we vibe code for 5 minutes and see what we can build. But yeah, I think that many people will continue to, as Guillermo says, I think many people will continue to outsource taste-making decisions to others, especially in design and brand. The more people need taste, the more they're going to find taste creators and taste curators who deeply understand what good taste looks like. But our first guest of today is here. Let's welcome them into the show. Yunsu Tang. Yunsu, can you hear me? Welcome to the stream.
Yes, I can hear you. Is it live?
It is live. We're live on LinkedIn. We're live on YouTube. I have no idea how many people are tuned in, but you're here. How are you?
Amazing. Good to see you.
Oh,
Woo.
the
Exciting.
pleasure.
I'm so glad that I'm ready. I got ready before this.
I love it. I'm looking forward to talking to you. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'd love a little intro to you, right? I know that we've spoken off camera, and we've had a bit of a conversation, but for the stream, for everyone listening and watching, who are you? What are you building?
Sure. Hi everyone. I'm Yunsu Tan. I'm a two-time founder and a two-time TEDx speaker. I'm originally from Hong Kong and now I'm based in London. So 2 years ago, I left everything that I've built in Asia and left the corporate world to move to London to do my master degree in management of information systems at the LSE. And yeah, I have been in London and I have been in the startup scene ever since.
I love it. How's it like building in London compared to Asia at the moment?
I think it's interesting because um, I think, to be honest, I think there are more AI talents here in London. I can see that, like I'm learning all the time when I'm going to, AI events. I think, the approach to, let's say, building a product can be a little bit different. I think Asia is very growth driven, especially if you look at China, right? China has 1.4 billion people. So a lot of times when you're thinking about building a product, it's about, oh, how can we scale really quickly? And if you see, what I notice is that if you see some of the most successful, let's say, companies coming out of Asia, it's very much like B2C focus. And, I don't think it's all about building a beautiful product, let's say, in that part of the world. That's my opinion, right? But then I think, when I go to, different events, meeting up with different startup people, I think people are really obsessed with the detail, which I really appreciate because it's really about how, okay, we can build these beautiful products that our users or our customers genuinely love and they really want to use. I believe in this approach more. Just it's just a personal point of view.
I
Yeah.
think, look, I think design is more and more important today than ever before, and we're in a situation where we don't want just these very utility focused applications. We want these lovely experiences as we move towards hardware where maybe we're not typing and we're just talking, right? And like, how do we prep for that? Like you mentioned, building product in Asia is very growth orientated versus the UK, which is the finer details and building a great experience. Like, how does that bleed into what you're building?
I think for me, like, I took the time to do my master degree to make sure that, I can be the, I want to be the right person to fill in the gap, between what we said academically is a system thinking world and the real world. And I always wanted to make sure that, I wanted to put my customers and my users first. And that's the approach I believe in because I do think that, when we are doing something, we should think in the long term, how we can actually, I think at the end of the day, it's the product and also the people that will keep the company going. And you can go through a lot of ups and downs together, and but no matter what, I think people and products are the core. That's what I believe in. And yeah, like, so now my company is called Synchro. It's my second startup. It's a stakeholder intelligence tool. We synchronize data from multiple sources, including policy announcement, relevant news, and social media data to generate insights. It is very close to what I used to do as a job at FGS Global. It's a financial communications firm acquired by KKR recently. Yeah, so I used to do this type of work on Excel, on PowerPoint, and with the AI development, I genuinely believe that there has to be a better, smarter, and more efficient way to do this.
I love it. I absolutely love it. So it goes and crawls the web and looks through all of the comms, the social updates, brings that into an interface that the stakeholder can sit, look at, and then make business decisions on. Is that the crux of it?
Yes, especially for advisors. So if you think about the role of an advisor, right? Like it's not just about, the insights from the data. It's also about the insights that you can get from that network. But if we can, make the first step simpler, then they can spend more time actually, getting, the insights from the network that can be, from important stakeholders like people who have a stake in the field that they're in. Sometimes it can be some highly regulated industry, for example, sustainability, for example, energy.
That's really interesting. And does it also look internally as well as externally?
I think now we mainly look at external data.
I love it. And then possibly in the future, you could go internally and look at the internal stakeholders that have like possible conversations that need to be had, and then build an interface that allows for a more collaborative experience instead of this kind of like one-way information, right? But moving over, instead of doing that in Excels and PowerPoints and all of these Word docs, you now get it in this cohesive product that people can use on a daily basis.
Yes, yes. Yeah, like right now we want to focus on external data first. That can, already be a challenge. But yeah, I think it would be so amazing
How are you
if we
getting over
can
that? Like
have everything together.
as data moves behind paywalls, how are you thinking about like kind of circumventing that, or getting access to proprietary information, or like just understanding like what crawlers you need to use or how to crawl the web? Is it using the operator from OpenAI, or is it something else entirely?
I think now we are like really using different tools. I think there's always a way to go around to solve the problem. And you're right, because I think a lot of people I talk to who are very interested in the space, or they're thinking about building in the communication space, often will ask questions about how can you go about for licensing and all that. I think that's why it's very important to be technically resourceful. Yeah, like now a lot of times we can always, I think it's about how you progress, right? Like, okay, we can start with something that is basic, and then okay, then it solves a simple problem. Then how can we build a more and more sophisticated system gradually?
I love it. And what's the startup scene on the ground like in London at the moment? I see you running the chapter of, is it pitch and run at the moment? Every day, every week running? What's that like?
Oh,
Like, what are the conversations there? Like, the energy must be awesome, especially in the summer. Everyone's out looking for investment, building incredible products. Talk to me around that.
yeah, like I'm co-leading the Founders Running Club in London, and I absolutely love it. We are a group of people who gather together every Saturday to have a run at Regent's Park, and afterwards, like we would just have some very genuine and interesting conversations about what products we like, and also what people are working on. For example, recently I met a staff software engineer who is working on the recommendation system at Just Eat. And it's just so nice, when you have this group of people who care about wellness, as well as, what they do at their jobs. I love London because it's just this place that has gathered talents from all around the world. It's a very diverse city that I like. I grew up in Hong Kong, and when I was working in the city, it kind of like has that vibes as well. Like people are coming from everywhere, and whenever I go to networking events, no matter then or now, like it's all about, oh wow, like I can always learn so much from the people I talk to, who are coming from different backgrounds. And I think that diversity really adds a lot of value to what we can build as a company, or what we can build as a product. Because at the end of the day, I think it's really about how you can, yeah, like gather all these insights from all around the world. Just like, I think, to think about it, right? Like, so I used to work in Shanghai, and at that time I think my main goal is to understand the digital ecosystem there. And I think, like, that understanding and that learning is something that I can carry with me no matter where I go. If you just think about, China has, like what I said, like has 1.4 billion people, and the internet penetration rate is so high that there are 1 billion internet users. And I used to study open innovation. So the concept is that how you can, openly gather intelligence. So sometimes like I still do that even I'm in London now. If I have some questions to ask, like I don't only use, the international platforms that like everyone in London is using. I can also use Chinese platforms. I think that has become one of my superpower.
That's really interesting. Like this, like being able to use the Chinese applications as well as the UK applications. Do you have a personal favorite? Do you prefer the nice experiences over here, or do you prefer the more utility focused experiences over there?
I have to say, in terms of for the search function, I do
Yep.
prefer Chinese apps. I think
Really?
yeah, the algorithm on some of the Chinese social media platforms, it's just so powerful that, for example, on Red Notes, if I just post, anything, it can easily recommend you, let's say, people who are contents that's generated by users who are also based in London. So it's interesting because now I would walk into a room, walk into, let's say, a hackathon, and people would tell me that I actually saw you online before I met you.
Wow. Wow. Okay. And so actually the recommending system on these platforms is pushing you in London versus pushing you in China.
They're pushing me in London because so for certain platforms, especially Red Notes, there is actually a large base of users who are based overseas. So I feel like it's such a I love it. I'm able to connect with Asian women, especially from all around the world, no matter if they're in the US or in the UK. And yeah, now, because I've been running different small tests, and I know as a fact that they're interested in my content. They're interested in having a conversation with me. I always keep track of
Is the content helping with the go-to-market of the product at the moment? Have you aligned it towards that, or is it just a disconnect of I'm building a brand for the founder first, and then I'm going to go and build the product? Which one is it?
I would say it is integrated, but it's a very good question because for my first startup, it was to help with people on their career anxiety. It started as a mental health platform, and actually it was a time that I really used the platform a lot, and it has helped me a lot to speak to my target customers, target audience. And till now the audience base is still there, and people are still trying to be very helpful. I feel so proud and also graceful that, for example, for my first startup, I was able to find all these great, amazing, talented mentors in all sorts of different fields. For example, who are working at investment bank, at a law firm, or in tech. And I think till now, for my current startup, I know that these people are still here. They're still watching me, looking at what I'm doing, and I'm still able to seek advice when I need it.
And then I guess raise at some point as well, when you decide that that's the right stage to, right? You can go and raise a pre-seed or a seed or a series A, and then you have these people in the network almost ready to go, and oh, hey, we can write a check for this, and we can recommend you for this person. Let's get you in front of that. I like it. So I'm a big fan of the content sphere. It just makes life a lot easier, doesn't it?
Yeah. I think it's interesting because I do believe there's a very. So I've been in the communications industry for years, and I genuinely believe that there has to be an integrated approach to communications. You can't separate business development, sales, marketing, and PR.
Why?
Right now, because you want a coherent and consistent story. People, what I realize, especially young talents, they want to work at a company that's aligned with their values. And how you communicate as a company is no longer restricted to what you release online, as a company. People want stories. People actually want to know, how the management team is, how the leadership team is. And now, you see a lot of founders telling their stories, and I'm sure you have met a lot of them. And actually, the people who are listening, they care about the stories. They are not. They care about who you are as a person. How you're leading the company. Yeah.
I think an integrated communications concept is super useful, both short term and long term, right? Like you can't just be, as you said, selling constantly and constantly. That's just, it feels like there's no connection between you and the buyer. And so like building this way of feeling that I'm part of the journey that you're going on, that the customer's going on, that the product's going on, allows for a better buying experience almost, if you know what I mean. And means that like at the end of the day, when you go to close, they feel like they are already a customer, they're already an advocate for the product.
Yeah, I would say like, really having advocates for you and for your company, for whatever that you're doing is key to your success. And I always feel very grateful like for everyone who has helped me in my journey.
Talk to me about the company today. Like when you're thinking about building this product, what does the experience look like? Is it a chatbot that you search in and then it brings in the information and sort of has an artifact similar to Claude or OpenAI? Or is the experience completely different to that? Are you thinking outside the box and not restricting yourself to the chatbot?
I don't want to restrict myself to the chatbot. It's about synchronizing intelligence to give you the useful data to map out stakeholders that are relevant to you. And I think, like what I mentioned, right? I used to work in PowerPoint, Excel, and I do believe that, you need to integrate the whatever that you're building into a user workflow. It shouldn't change you should make their jobs easier. You shouldn't like disrupt their workflow, right? It's interesting because when we actually started as a contract review tool powered by AI for the renewable energy sector.
Oh,
And
right.
at that time, we had so many rounds of prototypes, right? Like we are like, this needs to look innovative because this AI, it has to be blue color, the button has to like look like this and that. And then at the end, like, we literally sat down with lawyers, for rounds and rounds of prototypes, and we realized that they really didn't care. They're like, okay, like I just want you to solve this problem to make me worth, to make my job easier. And please, like I just want everything in Word document. So at the end,
Right.
after like, kind of, prototyping for different, for web apps for a few times, and at the end we actually decided that okay, it should be a web plugin. So that's how we started. And it's interesting because I really learned so much before our current pivot. And not just that, it was also the time for me to realize how much value the work that I used to do can bring to a company.
Right. And so that pivot has allowed you to really build the experience that they want rather than the experience that you felt they want.
Yeah, I think right now, like my approach is always to, I don't know if you have heard of kids, keep it simple, stupid.
I have long time ago, but I think it rings true today as we go off and we try and build these very cool experiences because we can, right? It's like I can have the web page like waves and the chatbot sort of pop off, or like Cluely at the moment in the US where it's this almost glass panel that sits on top. I think we've got to push the boundaries of UX design, and people are. But then also there are some situations where, like a lawyer, I think you're mentioning that actually don't disrupt, just give them a more powerful tool.
Yeah, yes, I think, ideally, in my own opinion, the user should be able to use the product even without, like this 5 minutes tutorial. I think that would be very ideal. And yeah, and also like I want to mention that in the communications industries, for many years you have all these tools that that we use, that we have to manually put in keywords. It's literally, sometimes it's interesting because things are not as intuitive as what people think it would be. Literally some of the work that I used to do was like
It's
literally
very
putting,
disconnected, very, very
yeah,
disconnected, like grabbing stuff from over here and then over there and trying to put it in a doc and then sharing that doc, collaborating, I assume.
exactly. Like I would have a list of keywords that I would put together, and I would like search one keyword like, and just keyword by keyword separately on Google, on like different sort of platforms that we were using. And now like I do believe that there has to be a way smarter way to do this, to make it a lot more efficient and more scalable, and so that more founders or more advisors can benefit from it eventually.
I love it. What's the goals for the rest of this year then? Is it to get to a certain amount of MRR or ARR and bring on some new users and reach a certain level?
Yes, that's definitely our goal. So I do have a goal in my mind. We want to form a partnership,
Unbelievably cool.
with, yeah, with some with, I mean, one of the most important firms. I think I know that to really make this, to really push things forward, like we can't do it alone. And I do believe that there are a lot of firms out there who are looking for technical talent to come in to really help them improve the workflow. A lot of times you know consulting industries can actually be quite traditional, right? And I think there's a lot of benefit for firms who can have a person who understand the industry, who understand the workflow, plus they have the technical team, they have the technical knowledge to really come in and yeah, like make certain improvement.
Speaking of like exceptional technical talent, have you been has Soham reached out to you, the guy, the engineer from India that's been moonlighting for multiple YCs in the valley? Have you seen this on Twitter at the moment?
Yes, yes, I've been following that, and
What's your take on that? Do you think it's something that people should be doing, more engineers should be doing, or is it something that actually don't moonlight, be transparent, and actually be clear on what it is that you can do and what you're outsourcing?
um I think it's interesting, right? I understand why this thing can happen, because I'm in the startup space. I feel like a lot of startups are hiring engineers. They're always looking for engineers, and maybe there aren't enough of them. And sometimes that's why, this kind of accident can happen. I do believe that I want the funding team to be very close and very strong together. I think, without that, it's almost like you're going into a war, right? Maybe I still have my, Chinese philosophy background. I'm sure you have heard of the book Art of War.
Hmm.
And I think no matter what, I think I do want a team to be very close together to, to really to move towards our goal together. So I believe in that a lot more than, okay, I need to outsource this, outsource that. Um, Maybe because I was in the communications industry, and when I sat down with executives, leaders of different companies, a lot of the times what people will complain to me about would be about HR problem. And I think if you can take care of the people problem really well, then that you can run a company a lot more easily.
Yunsu, thank you so much for your time. This has been an amazing conversation. I'm looking forward to doing it again and you hitting those goals and the MRR. And when you do, it's time for you to come back on the show and announce that.
Totally. Thank you so much.
Pleasure's mine. See you soon.
See you.
Guys, that was Yunsu Tang. She's building a AI communication startup, revolutionizing how you have stakeholder intelligence and allowing stakeholders to build and understand the world that they live in and the relevant comms and policies and news and social that's happening in external media. It's actually quite a cool startup when you think about it. It's, she gets to take the best of her knowledge of how the Chinese system works and how Chinese startups and the world's built over there and apply it to a Western environment. I think I heard a story of a VC in Europe doing something similar where they'd built a bot to scrape Chinese startups and what they did and the hypothesis in the use case, and then apply that to a Western environment and figure out if actually, hey, this is an idea, go build it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But we've just got these ideas that have been validated that humans use, and maybe we've got to culturally fit them here. And so she can take those learnings, and given that she's from the space, she's worked in it for years, she's well placed to build a communications, stakeholder intelligence startup. And how AI powers that is likely going to be an agent, probably going to have an operator type model as well, potentially, going and crawling the web looking for stakeholder intelligence. But yeah, recap, great conversation. She has thoughts on the Soham breaking news that happened last week, and that actually, be clear, the core team should be together. You shouldn't have to outsource it to a founding engineer. And the reality of the situation is that maybe what Soham did was wrong, and maybe you shouldn't outsource that work. You should bring that in house and find a core team that's both technical as well as, in this case, possibly design driven as well, right? The importance of design and taste, as I've mentioned before. I think we're probably going to get into that tomorrow on the stream, but a good conversation. As we wait for our next guest, I'm probably going to show you one of the more interesting things that's happened on the feed for me. I am subscribed to a newsletter called Idea Browser. It's a product that scrapes Google, Reddit, looking for ideas to build. One of them is the idea of the day. And today it's the accounting software for small landlords. It's about 10 million ARR, probably niche down, win big. Massive market, perfect timing, unfair advantage, maybe more US focused than UK focused. You bought a rental property thinking it would be passive income. You're now a part-time accountant, maintenance coordinator, therapist tenants who think a clogged toilet constitutes an emergency at 11 p.m. Your investment is turned into a second-hand job managing spreadsheets, tracking expenses in multiple apps, and remembering if that $47 receipt was from Home Depot or the upstairs toilet or downstairs sink. The accounting software actually understands landlords. Instead of treating you like a generic small business owner, it's designed for you. I think AI allows for that today, right? We can have these personalized experiences that previously were never before possible. Previously, it was just a website, and you couldn't build an experience that was tailored towards a very specific niche of the market. So this is a great environment to be in. The accounting software actually understands the landlords, and instead of treating you like a generic small business owner, it's designed for you and automatically categorizes the property expenses, tracks rent payments without you having to chase people down, generates tax reports. So it's a proactive application instead of having to follow up consistently. It's constantly sending out notifications. Maybe you subscribe via an email, and then you get your tenants on there, and there's a business owner one or landlord side to the product as well as a renter side to the product. So this should be a lot of fun, especially given that the beautiful part of it is that once landlords get their properties, tenants, and financial chaos organized in one place, they'd rather sell than rental than switch to another platform. And so it's sticky recurring revenue. We love to see stickiness, right? That's what we want in a product. How do you build a sticky product? We've got to get someone on to talk about this. This turns wannabe real estate moguls into actual investors who get to know their numbers and get their weekends back. And that passive income is really passive, not fake passive. Before we wrap on this, our next guest is up. And maybe we'll come back to this and talk about how you would go about building the lead gen around this, or the offers to bring people into this. We have Ivan from Malaga joining the show. Ivan, how are you?
Hey man, all good. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you perfectly. How are you? Congrats. Welcome to the stream.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. Thanks for having me, and congrats with like starting a new venture, which is called Ventures. I love it.
It's the name of the show. It's a sticky name. You get inbound from VCs. It makes my life easier. People just end up connecting, and so it's a nice little watering hole of content. Look, you are building quite literally single-handedly with your co-founder the Malaga startup scene, and I want to get you on to talk about this. Can you explain a little bit about you, a little bit about what you're building, and how you're helping the scene in Malaga compete with Sevilla and Marbella and Madrid?
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, my name is Ivan Suhinin. I'm from Belarus originally, been in Spain for the past 3 years. Here in Malaga, south of Spain, the hottest place on earth, it seems right now.
I wish I was there with you.
Oh man, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I've spent my like almost 20 years in IT and startups and ventures and everything, and I've been helping community back in my home country, and I'm trying to do this right now here in Malaga. So it comes from boredom originally. I really just didn't have anyone to talk to. I still learn Spanish, and I'm not there yet. But I had to talk to somebody, so I started connecting with people, and I just met these two guys. Actually, there are three of us. One is Dan Marquez. He is a French guy, lived in between New York and Paris, so he knew and helped building communities over there. Moved to Malaga for better life and all the sun and everything. And Angel, he is local boquerón, as we call Malagueño, as they call themselves. And three of us, what we are doing is we are trying to help to build this startup ecosystem from bottom to the top. So there is lots of effort from the government, of course, to help do that. Like obviously there is it's like obvious business interest to help, but Malaga is in a transition phase. Let's put it this way. Just like 15 years ago, it was like a, let's say, fisherman's village in a way, but then investments from like lots of people, including Antonio Banderas, started transforming the city. So right now, let's say there are some obvious growing pains, like businesses coming in. So we got this Parco Tecnológico, which is kind of this area outside of the city where like big companies are landing, or you've got right here in the center of the El Puerto, we got Google, and like it's growing. So there are lots of people coming in, large companies are landing in Malaga, and it obviously affects the city and the prices and everything. So there is this huge transition phase, and there are different groups of people. So on one side, you get students who are studying in Malaga University, who aspire to be startup founders as well. They have entrepreneurship faculty. It's amazing. Then you have like IT people from Spain originally working here, but then you get all the expats who are coming in, and then you have some people with money, VCs, angel investors, but they're mostly concentrated in Marbella. So let's say there is an interesting regional setup, and like here you got talent in Malaga, you have government support, but then there is Marbella with their own goals and ideas, and like most of let's say VC money sits there. So what we're trying to do is to identify and highlight all of the islands available, and then make bridges. So there are huge gaps that need to be covered, and this is what we're trying to do. So far the progress has been that we've united, I think we're the largest English-speaking tech and business community in entire Andalusia, and we have about 1,400 people in just one of our communities, and like we have a really huge WhatsApp chat. This year we're holding about 110 events throughout the year, which is kind of like at least one event every
That's
single
a serious
week.
cadence.
Yeah, every week something is happening. It's networking, it's education, and like we have this kind of umbrella which is called Malaga Startups, and here we have a community of people. This is the huge one, and we have this community of ideas. So what we do, we host twice per year Techstars Startup Weekend Malaga, where like we have about 50 to 60 people all the time coming in with ideas, and by the end of Sunday they come up with some pitch. There is a pitch they present to actual investors, and like people, it forces people to think in a startup way, and like it's really quick education. It's amazing.
Get it back
So
to
this
first principles and then rapid
exactly,
iteration. Like let's figure
absolutely.
out a use case. Let's go figure out the pitch, and then you can turn that into a hackathon of like, go build that thing now.
Yeah, and there are like some like revelation moments, like the guys, they have pivoted the original idea of like new walking maps app, and they made it a safety app for women. And like their like CEO, the guy is pitching, and like the question from mentor is like, okay, you've pitched, why is a man telling how to be safe for women? You've got like two experts like immediately involved with that. Just let them, and like they completely reworked their pitch. Like there were like two girls speaking from their heart, from their problems, and like it was way more powerful at the end. And you see how people shift their thinking, how they educate on the fly under stress. This is amazing. So yeah, jumping back, this umbrella, community of people, community of ideas. Then we have community of companies, like startups. So we are representatives of Startup Grind, which is, I guess, the largest world network of startups. So we hold a regular, like at least monthly events on how to educate people. So we have the ex-CEO Startup Wise guys presenting on our last event, and just talking about equity together with one of like super successful Danish entrepreneurs. Like we try to involve people, and we have some real people with real experience talking to startup founders, or like soon to be startup founders, and teaching them some real knowledge from the streets. So then the first community would be an investor community, which we're growing, where we're connecting people who are actually investing their own money. And like then we have like all of it. So from this life cycle of startups, you're getting from idea to people establishing a company, getting funding, and then hopefully like we keep getting these guys, like if anyone makes an exit here, they just sell the company and they buy 3 villas in Marbella. So what we're trying to achieve is to build consciousness, let's say, so that they get 2 villas and invest the money from the third one into startups. So like it starts working as a like proper.
Keep building the flywheel so they can have the yachts in the port.
Exactly. So yeah, like this is what we're trying to achieve, and Malaga needs that. We definitely see that Malaga needs that, and I mentioned like we're trying to help identify. Transparency is a huge issue, because like I just randomly met a guy, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm working for this aerospace company. We have 400 people in the office outside of Malaga right here. You're like, what?
Aerospace in Malaga?
Yeah, absolutely. It's I think it's one of two major directions, I'd say, for region. It's aerospace and agritech, and like you have everything else around, but like how? Yeah, it's apparently Europe is trying to catch up to SpaceX successes, and like there are some interesting things, but these companies specifically, they're building satellites, so it's really you don't know about it. So what we're trying to do is to highlight everything that's happening, like connect people, and like we're trying to be these ultimate connectors. So that's kind of the state of things as they are right now. And to what you're saying, like Sevilla and Marbella. So let's say Marbella, they having like their own plan. They're developing the city. They want to like invite founders. But again, we don't want to have yet another silo on the map. We try to involve them, and like we work closely. Like we're working with one of the best co-working spaces over there. So our community will be together with them organizing hopefully a really interesting event about medtech. So we're inviting some top investors from medtech in Spain, and we'll have like a couple of keynote speakers. We'll have startup pitches. We'll have a roundtable all about a very specific niche, like domain industry. And like people, like just look, there are people here who are interested, talk, because this is what's missing. And like the plan is to keep building interesting, unique events, and use that to connect people, and just like make sure this flywheel is spinning.
And so the goal here is not to build like another ecosystem. The goal is to build a flywheel that helps all of the ecosystems, but from Malaga.
Yeah, absolutely. Like let's say, of course, we want this region of Spain to grow. We want Malaga to grow and like get better and everything. So like we focus on, let's say, ideally an ecosystem of entire Andalusia. But of course, there are lots of players. You mentioned Sevilla. for example. And they had this expo like about 25 something years ago, like was crazy, huge with lots of buildings, and like since then they've been standing unused. But now there is like a group of people, like a venture studio, some investors with support of the government. They're trying to make like a really huge event early next year, maybe about March, where they will be like reutilizing some buildings from this expo from 25 years ago, and make a really huge, tremendous event, like with the support of Junta Andalusia, like that's local government, and just make something amazing. Like there are lots of efforts, and everybody understands that in the modern world, like if a certain region wants to succeed, having healthy business is a must. So they're doing that. So of course we're not trying to oppose, but we're trying to collaborate. Yeah.
I like it. What are the policies that Malaga has, or the state of Andalusia has, that makes it welcoming for startups, for entrepreneurs, for people to build in that region of the world?
Yeah, that's a great one. Let's say there is federal government which defines most of the rules. So really, in this case, it's interesting that there are some basic laws like taxation rules and everything, and Andalusia has to follow what's out there. And we need to look at what Spanish government is doing. So Spanish government, they have this startups law, and they keep iterating. The first version was like not so great, but then they had 1 or 2 extra editions, and they were better.
So they're building it like a
exactly.
startup.
Yeah, exactly. So they got this government institution called ENISA, which is helping, and they, as far as I recall, they're helping with grants, they're helping with startup visas. And then, speaking of visas, there are lots of expats, and there is like Malaga is maybe not unique, but let's say one of strong features of Malaga is that there are lots of expats with lots of knowledge coming in from different parts of the world, where people want to enjoy their life here, and then they come just for sun, let's say, but then they see, oh, something's happening, they start contributing. And we have people like, one could say this guy who's let's say grandfather of cybersecurity, he came from Silicon Valley and he lives here. They have some people behind some really huge deals exactly everywhere, like all around the world. We know a guy, there was like a hilarious story. Like the guy in his life, I think he was speaking of one of our events, he did more than, I think, 100 of M&As, and he was on the acceptance side helping to integrate the companies inside, and he was working for huge corporations.
Wow.
And like, yeah, it's just like, that's the level of people we're having here. Again, like we need to know each other to see how to combine that. So this, again, what Malaga has, like, kind of a very strong offering. We have lots of people with lots of knowledge who come here and they can share this knowledge. So we try to utilize that.
Do you feel that it's difficult to build a generational company by a beach?
Yeah, that's
or actually, is it surprisingly easy to do? Given that like you have all of these options to go out and do things, right? You can go and surf in the sea, or you can go and do wind sports, and you can like spend time on the beach. And we both know that Malaga's Wi-Fi is actually surprisingly fast and probably better than the UK's in some areas. But I get the feeling that, like, how are you going to build a company by a beach? Like, how is that even possible?
Like my first couple of weeks here in Spain, I spent them in Fuengirola. I was living like in the beach line, so to say. And like you have your 8 hours in a day, and then you walk out and you have this half-naked people with beach umbrella, like burnt nose, sand here. You're like, this is not particularly like empowering environment for doing work, right? So like I feel what you were saying, absolutely. On the other side, right now outside is so frequently hot that I'm not getting outside, and like during the summer, you're not like, of course you have the opportunity, but you don't go out there daily. You'd rather stay under AC and keep working. So like,
and so the weather actually forces you inside,
exactly,
and forces you to work.
And it's perfect. So I have cold air, I have amazing views, and I have to work because I try to stay inside. But
dude, this is why we love Europe.
Absolutely, man. And like the thing is, there are lots of areas in Malaga. It's a really good European city with a good history, and like of course, if you're at the beach, it will like you'll be distracted. Let's put it this way. If you're inside, you just work in a working district. Yeah, it's cool, it's sun, but no, like you can absolutely work. And if you read about the news, if you read the news about what's happening outside, what's going on with all the companies coming in, they're like all the like even government has their own digest about all the kind of IT related and business related stuff happening. You keep reading, you're like, damn, I want to participate. And then like people jumping a little back, giving a nod back to our community. I do know people who stayed in the city because they found this community. They found, people who think like them, and they see, okay, something could be done. I can talk. Those are clients. Those are partners. We can create something together. So having this community, having all those news, again, transparency and connecting the dots, building the bridges between those islands, like it just inspires people. And the sun will really be helping you. Just something stressful happening in your life at work, just walk out, you look at the sea, you look at the sun, you're like, life's not that bad.
So actually not a bad place to build a startup. Talk to me about what does the locale need to do to bring some of that talent closer to the city center, or at least bring the community together, and so that it feels that we can start turning that flywheel faster? Is it investors? Is it policy changes? Is it visa changes? Or is it something else completely?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good one. So let's say, what are the elements of the flywheel, right? So it's founders generating ideas, then let's say finding partners to validate this stuff, and then self-funded with small money, just generate an MVP, validate, and like it keeps working. Then you need to get proper funding, and then you just try to do something. So right now we've got the money, so there are investors that actually they're trying to find people who want to do something, who want to build something.
So you have access to capital. The pipes are there.
Absolutely.
The pipes are ready to be turned on. You just don't have enough people.
Exactly. So the inflow, that's the problem. So the founding side, let's say Spain historically has been really risk averse, and but then this is changing. The new generation, they're being taught at university that you can take risks, you can build something great, and they start thinking about it. Then you have all the expats, and these people, imagine like a profile of somebody between 20 and 30. They're already making a move. They grew up somewhere else. They're making a move. It's a big decision. So it makes you grow up faster than normal. And then you have these people, you have the growing up generation, and everybody wants to do something. So there is something to work with, but these people need education. Somebody needs to inspire and tell them, this is possible, you can do that. So again, like we're trying to help, like we're working actively on a project. It's a bootcamp program for 3 months where we take about 16 people and just work with them super closely every single week and help them get educated on everything a startup founder needs. Again, involving the experts we have in the community, and like inviting people with like really cool history and knowledge. And then ideally, like when this thing starts working, we'll be publishing, let's say, where we'll be releasing 16 new founders every quarter.
And so you're actually trying to build almost like a founder factory. And then also at the other end, build a pipeline for access to capital, and you could just turn on the pipes and go, right, we have all of these ideas, and we have these products that are ready to go, whether that's hardware or software, and we have access to capital and VCs and angels that are ready to invest, and let's make sure that we can connect the two parties quickly, reliably, and consistently.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the plan. That's the plan. And then like it can take a shape of an incubator. Or a startup studio or whatever, but like there is talent, there is money, there are big hopes and dreams. We can just make it all connected and make it work.
Does all of that capital come from Marbella, or does it come from abroad as well?
It's of course a bit of an oversimplification saying it's all in Marbella. Like we have quite a few investors living right here in Malaga. We had a good friend. He's an owner of a VC fund from New York. He just decided to come here and live here for better life. And yeah, there are people, even some connections from Madrid, so they're coming once in a while, and there are kind of investor gatherings, and then you get people from all around the world, even from UK, some Polish people, and of course north of Europe. They love Spain, south of Spain. So like yeah, and then they land somewhere. Yes, so they are here in Marbella, in Malaga, maybe in Rincon. Like they just set in where it makes sense, and yeah, let's say there are lots of money sources here.
I like it. It's almost a precursor to an incubator. You're building the boot camp to begin with the goal of building the incubator, and then the accelerator, and then the factory that you can start churning out founders with, almost like YC.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the plan, and it's a logical way of how you build a system like that, an ecosystem like that, and yeah, we're just trying to help from our side, contribute as much as we can, and yeah, like we keep pushing. We see the results over the past 2 years, and just with the same level of effort, we're like involving volunteers. We think it can get to something really interesting.
Awesome. I'm on board, right? Like we both spent time there. It makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
You can have the fun in the sun, and then you can work hard and play hard on the other side, right?
Perfect combination.
How long do you think this is going to take? Is this a 5-year play, a 10-year play, a 15-year play, or is it something it's almost another generation that you have to go through, and that starts today?
Let's say it started several years ago, even before I came to Malaga, but it keeps working. Not a generation, definitely. It will come faster. So let's say if we're talking about let's say we need a year. We need a year to build some foundation of founders who can do stuff, and then they take from 1 to 3 years to build something. So like it's reasonable to expect some reasonable activity here in the city in maybe 2 or 3 years. But right now it's like early stage, and it's like a blue ocean, let's say. Like you really just using the startup analogy here, you can come and do something because there's so much potential, so many good people, and like it will grow up either way. You can just contribute or not, but like we're choosing to contribute and help it all. So
and what I love is like you've got some great companies around you, right? I'm sure at the technology park there's some. You've got Google down by the port, you've got Pika Labs, and they can share the credits and then build an ecosystem that they can help invest in as well, I assume.
Of course. Yeah, we're talking to the likes of Oracle and Google on how we can build something. So of course they're looking at Madrid first of all, but also they need local talent. So we're kind of we're in the process of opening this door. Okay, so not there yet, but there are some really interesting approaches we can use in this. And Google has program for startups, Oracle has program for startups. Like combining in all of it, like we can help it grow. And like this is a really great point that big companies coming here, they cannot be just greedy and like hunting for talent and not giving back. It only works if there is like give and take. And like we see some cooperation, and we expect even more from companies. It's not like they came to an unknown planet where they build their outpost and they just like live there like without any contribution. No, they come and join the like living organism of society and the ecosystem. So we are working with them and collaborating to see how they can contribute, and we're happy to contribute back and like again providing all the knowledge and access to community and everything. So it's an ongoing process for us.
That ongoing process, is it quite give and take? Are you seeing that on the ground, or is it one way right now with you trying to pitch them?
Let's say 70% from our side, 30% from their side. But we are pushing it to be more balanced, like 50-50. But they're like definitely not us just trying to ban at a closed door. No, like they're reaching out actively and also just trying to do something. So I see really good good intentions. Really good intentions.
And locally, is the government quite pro innovation, pro go take a risk? It's not just being taught at university, but the rules and the policies actually allow for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So they're trying, definitely they're trying, and there were some local governmental programs on how to land in Malaga, how to move your company. There is like a department working in ayuntamiento, like local government working that on specifically landing external companies to Malaga, and they've been pretty successful. So they're actually the ones who brought Oracle and Google, so they do have some success. Okay, so it's not just, yeah, of course. And like these guys, I know they're traveling, they're talking to, like the delegation has been to, as far as I recall, to Korea, and they've been in Riyadh. So like there was like lots of collaboration, and they're definitely doing their part, absolutely. And they, you know, as we say, they are building the soil. They are like providing the soils, and like, hey, here you got the seeds, you got the rakes, but it's us, the community, that should come in and just like use all of that provided and try to grow something. The government will not be doing startups for you. It's still people who should come and take the lead, right?
I agree. Do you think there are any bets that you can make on if $1 billion company comes out of Malaga in the next decade?
In the next decade, I think yes, absolutely. Like not
multiple
next year,
billion, but
multiple billion. Yeah, let's say speaking outside of Malaga, I'm not sure how the world would look like in 5 years from now with all the
this is
AI.
true.
Like, absolutely, you don't know anything how it will unfold. It can be completely crazy, and like there are multiple scenarios. But like, yeah, let's say if we follow the optimistic scenario, and like people are actually empowered by AI, and like everyone is a creative builder just by like reduction of costs of building, and providing access to creating to way more people, people who have ideas that were a bit limited previously. Like, yeah, naturally you'll have lots of ideas being implemented, and we have a high chance of getting a 1 billion company.
I love it. This felt like a call for startups, for people to move to Malaga and go build in an incredible place with incredible people, but also have a good life as well, right? Like, I think we talk about work-life balance. It's just life. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Just go do it. Just go do it. Go do it in a great place. Go do it with great people. Go do it in a place where there's less competition, so you can build something incredible, right?
Absolutely, yeah. It's a lovely place to be, and it's one of the best decisions of my life to do that and move to Malaga. I love it.
Ivan, this has been a joy. Thanks so much for joining the stream. We're going to have
Likewise.
you back on. I'm sure that when you have your first event of the year, well, your first major event of the year, I know there's 110 so throughout the course of this year to next, we'll get you back on. We'll maybe live stream it from there.
Absolutely, yeah. This MedTech event, like, you're absolutely invited, and yeah, let's talk about it separately.
I like that. I'll text you. Ivan, see you
Amazing.
soon. Thanks so much.
Yeah, see you. Many thanks for having me, and good luck. See you, man.
I will. Appreciate it. That was Ivan from Malaga, who is quite literally single-handedly with his partners building the Malaga startup scene, or at least spinning the flywheel faster for the first time in a long time. I spend my time both in Malaga and here. I have done. It's an incredible place, both for tourists, but people sleep on the fact that there is a technology park there with incredible talent. You have some awesome both design and engineers who are building or can build incredible products. Google is there, as Ivan mentioned. Oracle is there, as Ivan mentioned. Pika Labs, who are building an image generation tool, one of the incredible ones, are also located in in Malaga, or the state of Andalusia. Shout out to the Pika guys. Look, I mean, it just shows you that you don't have to build in a specific area. Yes, there are advantages to building in a London or a Berlin or a San Francisco or a New York or a Stockholm or a Paris, but that doesn't mean you can't go build by a beach that has sun 24/7 and a part of a growing ecosystem that is going to lean on each other more. And so maybe there's a bit more hunger there. As he said, there's access to capital. They're finding a way to turn on the pipes that allows for, when you have an idea, you can quite quickly get an angel to write you a check, right? If they believe your idea has value, or you are that individual that is going to build that out. So look, what can I say? It's like, if we're going to build, just go start building. I don't think that you need to go to university too, but it's great that Spain is teaching entrepreneurship in a way that's giving young talent, young individuals, the ability to go and take risks in ways their parents might not have before, right? Where there were typically more vocational jobs Now they have the opportunity to go, right, I'm going to go learn AI. I'm going to go vibe code myself an MVP and maybe take it from there and then go help find myself a technical investor inside these communities. And like, look, that's what community is for. That's why we're building ventures, building the distribution network for early stage startups, as well as the ESPN of business and technology. That's why we're here. Welcome to the Ventureverse. So far, just to recap, we've had both Ivan and our first guest on the show, who has allowed for some incredible conversations. Right up next, our guest. We are just waiting on that. Yunsu was our first guest. Ivan was our second. We've got 3 more on the docket today. Today's a good day. Like, tech is in a great place. Business is in a great place. We're doing well. And the Ventureverse is doing well. We need to get some subscribers. We need to get some sponsorships. We've got some big plans for how this plays out as the next generation media network. But first, we have to get our next guest on. She's being let in as we speak.
Hello.
Welcome to the stream. How are you?
I'm great. How are you? Good to see you.
Pleasure's mine. Thanks for joining it. You are live. This is awesome. Thanks for the time.
Amazing. Excited. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so looking forward to this. You're like the Gen Z whisperer. Right? I'd love a little bit of context into you and your business. And then obviously we've got to talk about the book.
Yes. Okay, let's do it. Let me give you a little bit of context on all of that. So I'm the founder and CEO of the Z-Link. We're a global Gen Z focused agency. So we help traditional brands connect with Gen Z, all kinds of brands really, from like big established brands like Pepsi or IKEA to startups that are just starting out and really want to make sure to hit the mark with Gen Z and engage them in a way that like Gen Z actually wants to see and be a part of. And we do that through market research. We've got a network of almost 30,000 Gen Zers in over 50 countries, and through social media marketing, content creation, marketing strategy, and consulting. So a lot of generational behavior research and all of that. And then on the book side, my book is called Design Your Life, Your Career, Your Way. And I wrote it because I wanted to share everything I've learned about how our generation can basically harness all the tools and resources we've got at our disposal today to build careers that provide them with flexibility, freedom, fulfillment, and ownership. Because I deeply believe there's better ways for us to work, and we're lucky to be young and entering the workforce now at an age where there's so many possibilities. So the book is just a way for me to share everything I've learned by doing that myself when I started my company 5 years ago.
I love it. There's a lot to unpack there. Let's start with the Z-Link. Like, why does Gen Z hate marketing in the way that traditional brands have done it today? Like, I don't get it. Explain it to me.
So many reasons. And I mean, you've probably seen things yourself that like made you cringe, or where it's like painfully obvious that a brand is trying to reach Gen Z without ever having spoken to a young person in their team.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a big part of it is that every brand sort of wants Gen Z's attention because they're the most online generation. We're the generation that's most active on social media, and responds best to things like digital marketing. But the reason why it's kind of like a science or an art right now is because I think a lot of brands don't realize that to talk to young people and offer some kind of value to them and engage them in a way that they respond to, you need to actually give young people a seat at the table. And brands that do that and allow themselves to sort of take creative risks and think outside the box do so much better with young audiences, because we see so many things every single day that we simply do not care for an ad that is the exact same as the 10 previous ones. And it's really hard for brands to step out of this like ad framework and do something new or do something fresh or interesting, because I think a lot of people fear like the creativity and the risk that comes with it. They fear like sort of taking their brand less seriously, but that's what works in marketing today. It's like you have to do something more creative, more risky, more fresh, because of course when there's so many things competing for the same people's attention, you have to do something to stand out. And I think it's a lot of we do a lot of research to see exactly what components our generation engages most with on social media, what it's like for Gen Zers around the world, and then we try and help brands implement that in a way that feels authentic to them and where they can come in and actually provide something either valuable or entertaining or informative to this cohort that they want to reach.
Talk to me about the research. I mean, like, we're all competing, including Ventures is competing with the cat memes on TikTok, doom scrolling with that algorithm. But what is it that you're seeing in the research that allows you to have such an interesting perspective on what Gen Z requires when it comes to attention?
No, there's so many things, you know. One is that I think brands think that Gen Z's attention span is, you know, we hear 8 seconds long, and they're like, okay, we need to just focus on that. But the thing is, I think this is kind of a misleading statistic because we see Gen Z loving long form content. And this statistic doesn't mean that all of your content and marketing content needs to be 10 seconds in order to work. It just means that you need to be more conscious of what value you're providing and why you're expecting people to give you their time. And I think Gen Z is just more likely to scroll past. And it's just making brands more aware of like, okay, am I actually doing the very best I can do from the start to provide something valuable or entertaining or beautiful or creative to someone that they're going to want to watch? And I think another big thing with Gen Z is like, often when we're creating strategies for clients, the first place we will look is like at our own group chats. Like, we're a fully Gen Z team and we see what gets shared among our circles. And our team is in like 13 different countries. So there's a lot of different perspectives within our team of Gen Z. And it's like such a good way to find out what our generation is caring about today when you just look at what your friends are sending you, what they're sharing from brands, and then deconstruct why. And it's not like a single recipe at all. Every brand thinks that they have to copy Duolingo and that the only way is like to be unhinged.
Oh, they actually killed it, didn't they? Like the team at Duolingo were incredible at doing that.
Of course, and they were, and they're a great example. And so that's definitely one strategy that we know works. And you've had brands like Ryanair, Duolingo, even the Empire State Building on TikTok following this sort of strategy. But then there's other brands that focus on more like creative, sort of cinematic, like more like traditional campaigns that still work really well with Gen Z because they've got an element of storytelling from the start. That's really interesting.
For instance, like Wimbledon or the Masters, as an example.
Yeah, I love how Wimbledon is doing their social media right now because, you know, they give people mics and they make it seem like you're sort of like a part of something you shouldn't be a part of. And it's like there's storytelling, there's humor, there's interest from the start and intrigue. So I think they've really understood that. And, you know, it doesn't have to be a crazy idea. Like what they do, I think, is quite simple. But people just want to watch it because they wanna just hear what other people are saying.
Yeah, there's something in that, right? When the public interviews that we've seen a lot on social at the moment, that people just go up to others and instantly just captivates you as an audience, right? You end up stopping on that versus scrolling past something that is a trick or a car being thrown off a building.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I think street interviews like have an element of, okay, there's a person I've never seen before, and the first thing you see is you hear the question, and I think you just kind of want to know what this random person is going to say to this question they were just asked in the middle of the street. You know, I think there's kind of like an element of, I can see myself in their position, and I wonder what I would say if someone stopped me in the street and asked me like, you know, what's like your biggest regret or something that instantly like takes a lot of thought, and something that is not the kind of thing that you hear strangers talking about every day. So I think that brings in storytelling. It brings in like social observation in the same way as Wimbledon. So I think that's why they're kind of like a timeless format. They're very immediate. There's no time wasting at the start. It's just like you jump in, there's a question, there's a stranger, and the viewer's just like, well, what are they gonna say?
And so we just take the story arc and like you get the start, you get the middle act, you get the end act, you get to the end, and so you can then move on happily instead of feeling like there's a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
When it comes to the pillars of what makes up a great social strategy for Gen Z, are there certain ones you find yourself coming back to?
Yes, for sure.
Please.
For sure. One that it really depends on the brand, of course, like 100%. Some of them won't work for some brands, but I love adding in a community pillar to brands' content strategies. And what I think of as community pillar is a content pillar that focuses either on user-generated content, or on spotlighting people from your community, or doing something very human for your brand that like engages the people around it very actively. Because I think every brand wants to be community driven, but it's rarely a part of their content strategy. So when we think of it as a content pillar, it's like, okay, can we showcase our users? Can we talk to them? Can we show the people that are building the brand more actively? Or can we make it a point to ask our audience questions actively in our on our Instagram or on our stories, or run polls, or do something that is by definition interactive? Because a big thing is Gen Z loves interacting and sort of co-creating with a brand that they love. So when they're given that space to co-create and like be an active participant instead of just someone that's observing, I think that works really well, because most brands sort of just want that in theory but aren't implementing it as a core part of their content strategy. So I think it's like high reward, low risk, kind of easy way to engage people, and have them go the extra mile to engage with you.
How important is the comment section in anything social? I find myself like going more into the comments like today than ever before. And actually there's a huge amount of value in the way that people communicate with each other, the insights you can glean out of that. And then it sort of becomes a flywheel for what I can produce next, or what a brand can produce next.
Yeah, I think the comment section is so important, especially on TikTok. But I'm also such a comment section person. Like I am always checking the comment section. And I think brands that understand that tend to do really well. And for example, one thing we do to sort of play into that is we'll have a dedicated engagement manager for every one of our clients, and try to have that person from the brand's account like engage in comment sections that are somehow relevant, or even not relevant, but just in like a fun, unexpected way.
Do you engage in like a human, like a human being, not just as a company? So it's like a person.
As a human being. As a human being, but it's the company account. And I think people see that, and like you've probably seen it when you're looking at a comment section and like Mercedes is there commenting. It's like, what are you doing here, Mercedes? But it's funny because you're like, what's this big brand doing here with like their social media manager clearly just like, I don't know, commenting on a Love Island TikTok. It's not where you expect to see them. But especially for really like big legacy brands, it's kind of fun, because when everyone knows you, you're just like being where your audience already is, and just kind of like making a cheeky little appearance in that space. So I think that's quite a fun way to engage Gen Z in a way that feels very native to them, because like they live in the comment sections. So yeah, I think kind of an underused strategy.
I like it. I think I'm a big fan of the comment section. I think I want more people to comment on the live stream, but we'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
I want to transition over to the Substack and the book. Did the book grow out of the Substack, like, or is it just a standalone piece that you decided to write?
It didn't grow out of the Substack, because my Substack had virtually no followers back then. Back then, I say, like, I mean, the book came out in October, but my Substack grew very fast from maybe this February onwards. Before that, I had about 1,000 subscribers. Now it's at 13,000, and that's
Across
been
all
only
states in the US, bar one, as I hear.
Yeah, exactly. We've got every US state except for Wyoming, which is so funny because there's like dozens of people in every state and not even one in Wyoming. I might just have to run like an ad campaign there. But yeah,
That would make
so
a
the
lot of
book
sense.
came before, right? So the book came before the Substack. I was writing a little bit on Substack then, but it wasn't connected. The book came mainly out of my personal brand that I had built around the Z-Link, and then my publisher reached out, asked if I'm interested, and I was very interested because I've been a writer forever, and I just really always wanted to write a book, and I guess I was just waiting for the right opportunity, the right trigger, and I spoke to the commissioning editor at the publishing house, Kogan Page, and we just saw eye to eye a lot on like what the book could be. And what I would enjoy writing about. So I put together the book proposal in like a couple hours. I didn't even know anything about publishing at that point, so I didn't know book proposals were a huge thing that people spend weeks or months on, which I think was good because it took away all the pressure that I would have put on
You just
myself.
ripped through a book proposal really quickly.
Yeah, I did. And then we ended up going with a completely different idea anyway for the book. So it didn't even matter so much. It was just, yeah, it was just that I was lucky. The publishing house approved it. Everyone was like, okay, let's do it. And then I had 4 months to write it. So it was really like a tunnel vision project for these 4 months to write everything I've learned in my career so far that I wish I was taught earlier about careers.
Is it difficult writing a book and managing the business as well? What are some of the learnings you've got from that?
I definitely like, well, it depends on your deadline. I definitely took a bit of a break from managing my business. I wasn't actively selling or doing anything else myself. Obviously, my team was still running our projects, our client projects, but I wasn't doing any public speaking or any personal branding stuff or sales by myself while writing because I had such a tight deadline. It was 65,000 words in 4 months, and it's pretty much all I did. um, I think if you're writing a book in like a year or two, which is also a very usual timeline, it's probably very viable to do it alongside a business if writing is something that you enjoy. Um, if writing is something that you don't enjoy, I feel like it's gonna be a bit of a painful process.
Bit of a slog.
Yeah, because there's a lot of it. There's many, many, many hours of writing and just like looking at a page.
Do you have a favorite chapter within the book that you would constantly come back to?
Um, Yes, I've got a favorite that I come back to for other people and one that I come back to for me. For other people, I find the one I always drive them back to is chapter 5, which is personal branding. And it's just like the most practical chapter on all things personal branding. And I feel like that's the one people always ask the most about. Like, yeah, people are always just like, have questions about personal branding. And I'm like, it's all in that chapter. But my personal favorite is chapter 2, which is called Redefining Success, and it's about it's more of a philosophical chapter rather than a practical chapter. And I really like philosophy. I like thinking of ideas and trying to convey things that are complex in a very clear way that can help someone have a light bulb moment. And I think that's why I like that chapter. It's like about how we don't normally take the time to slow down and properly figure out what success means to us personally. And I really love examining that as a notion because it's so different to everyone that you talk to. And most people sort of take their definition of success from what they think it should be, not how they actually feel. And I think bringing success back to your day-to-day feelings is really important. And that's what I try to prompt the reader to reflect on in that chapter. And I just think no career decision can be made sort of intentionally before you've understood that about yourself and try to let go of the other notions that you have about what success should be or should look like for you.
What is your version of success now? Has it changed throughout the process of writing that book? And like that, when you come back to that chapter?
It hasn't changed. It hasn't changed. I've been pretty clear on mine, which is that for me, I want to use my energy every day in a way that feels fulfilling and that brings me joy. At the end of the day, I want to know that I've used my energy in a fulfilling and aligned way. And to me, that means getting to be creative every day and getting to just enjoy my day-to-day life, which also includes having free time to spend with my loved ones and to travel and to explore different creative things, because I know that I can't, like, no amount of money or no milestone or accolade will feel important to me at all if I don't have freedom and joy day to day in my life. So I think freedom and happiness is so important, and then everything else comes after that for me.
Do you think personal branding has allowed you, like building that brand online has allowed you to have that freedom and therefore that definition of success?
For sure, yeah, it's very helpful, and I still have a long way to go, I think, for personal branding wise, but it's definitely allowed me to access opportunities that I never knew existed. It's been, even when I didn't know I was personal branding, that's what was bringing in opportunities still. It was just me putting myself out there online. Um, and so I think without that, I have no idea where I would be today.
What are some of the nuances of writing online that you figured out that you keep coming back to? Like, I love the posts. I think the design is great, and you've got this like taste that I typically just don't
Thank
have.
you.
Like, how have you curated that
Thank you. Is that for Substack?
for both the LinkedIn posts and the Substack?
Well, for LinkedIn, I'll go on LinkedIn because I feel like it's probably more relevant for anyone watching. But my only like strategy there is just I really believe that when you write whatever feels authentic to you, and I know authenticity is like an overused word in this space, and people just stop thinking about what it actually means. But when you write about what feels actually enjoyable to you, and you stop thinking about what others are writing about. You don't have ChatGPT generating your like latest marketing trends post. You just write from you about what you're interested in. That's what always works best for me on LinkedIn. In terms of engagement and like opportunities and everything, it's just, I've tried everything. I've tried being like, okay, let's make the most like helpful marketing post ever. 3 likes, and then I'll post like, oh my god, pinch me, this just happened, can't believe it, 300 likes. Like, it's it's just, yeah, the most genuine and authentic you can be, the better. And that's what I try to do on LinkedIn. I try to like forget I'm on LinkedIn and people see it as like a formal platform. Just scrap all of that and just pretend you're writing an email to a friend. And then on Substack, my approach is very similar again, just writing anything I'm learning at that time in my life that I think at least one other person might find helpful. And I try to write again in a very personal and unpretentious way that just focuses on conveying something complex in the clearest way I can. And it doesn't have to be formatted in any like viral way. It doesn't need to be longer or more like philosophical or anything. It just needs to be true. And I just put it out there and hope for the best.
It's pretty much everything on the internet these days, isn't it? It's just
Yeah.
like it's a hope, a little bit of hope, a little bit of luck, and a hell of a lot of distribution.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you sort of build an ecosystem of content? Do you use the Substack and take it to and reuse that content on LinkedIn, or do you take the Substack and then reuse that content as images somewhere else, or are they kind of standalone at the moment?
Sometimes I do. It's not like my active strategy. If I think that if sometimes my Substack feels so personal, even though it's my largest platform, I pretend it's like 3 people reading it. So then sometimes I don't feel like sharing that on LinkedIn where it feels like very public, So if I've written a Substack essay that feels less personal, I'll share that on LinkedIn as well and be like, and maybe just share the key takeaways or why I'm thinking about this topic. Yeah, I'll do that from time to time. Like I share my Substack quite a lot. I share like the milestones of building a newsletter, what I've learned, because I know a lot of people are on this journey right now. And then I don't repurpose content in any other way very actively, no.
Is building a newsletter still a good strategy to have, because you're collecting emails and then therefore can obviously retarget those customers, or is it sort of played out and there are just too many people building newsletters at this moment in time? The inbox is full, we don't really care, we're just sort of skimming through it, and then with AI being in our inbox just giving us summaries, like how do you think about that?
In a brand perspective or in a personal brand?
I guess from both perspectives.
I'll tell you, I think that's a great question. From a brand perspective, like I think there are some brands doing newsletters really, really well, but there's just very few of them, and they need a great copywriter, which most brands think they can outsource to AI, but it's really apparent and like boring to read. So I think it only works if you've actually got a great copywriter that people get to know in terms of the voice of the brand and they enjoy reading it. And because that's so rare, it's even more like delightful when you stumble upon it. From a personal brand perspective, I think that if you enjoy writing, it's definitely a great way to go, especially because, I'm kind of like a free Substack ambassador right now, but because on Substack, the network effects help you grow so much. I think 90% of my subscribers come from Substack's network effects, which is crazy. So from people commenting on my posts or liking them or reposting quotes from my posts. So it is a newsletter, but it also lives on its own social media platform that helps it grow so actively. I find that insanely valuable because I think without that I would have 2,000 subscribers. And I think a newsletter on a platform like this allows you to reach a lot more people a lot faster if you get lucky. And if you enjoy that format and the sort of longer form writing, it can be really rewarding because you build a community that actually knows a lot more about you and feels closer to you. And it can drive business opportunities as well, even though it's like a personal channel for me, for example. Like I don't talk business on it at all, but then someone will come to the Z-Link and be like, I found you on Substack.
That's insane. I think that long form is having this resurgence at the moment, especially as everything gets more optimized, more short form orientated. And then long form is just this, we're having a conversation, you're building connection, you're maintaining attention. And that is probably the most important thing today.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
Arafili, this has been an absolute masterclass in Gen Z and everything content related, to be honest with you. We're going to have to do a longer segment with breaking down the research with you.
That would be amazing.
Do you have any, I'm sure that you at some point in the year you release marketing material. Let's get you on then. Let's have a whole research session for an hour, just breaking down everything Gen Z. And then we'll find a way to get some of the brands involved.
That would be amazing. Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. And thank you for the great questions.
Pleasure's mine. We're absolutely having you back on. You're a friend of the show. Let's do it again.
Well, see you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. We had Arafili from the Z-Link on. She has one of probably the fastest growing Substacks across America, I believe, talking about it's her personal Substack, not the business's Substack. And she also runs the Z-Link and has done for, I believe, the last 5 years, do a lot of market research in Gen Z. Some of what we thought were facts seem to be not from her research. And she's actually seeing that Gen Z spends time on longer form and isn't just socially optimized for this 8-second, 3-second short form clips that are, bombarding the feed and the timeline. Actually, they want connection. They want to have attention maintained and they need that longer form content, and so are actively digesting that in what they consume online. She also touched on growing a Substack and why Substack is a great place to be because of its network effects and how you should think about writing copy. Don't be businessy, like don't try and be corporate-y and talk in that jargon. Be personal. Get inside the comments. Make your consumers and make your readers and audience feel like human beings, and then respond to them in that way. I think there's a lot of insight in that little segment, and we're gonna have to digest that and have Arafili back on with some of the team to talk about the marketing research and see if that holds up against Gen Z individuals. They're a Gen Z team. They're absolutely killing it, working with some of the biggest brands in the world, consumer brands in the world. So super looking forward to having her on. We've got our next guest coming up in the next 3 minutes, but let's just give you a recap of the day so far. Biggest stories, we've done the news. We've had Revolut coming up on its anniversary of being a bank, but still not having the credit license to give out credit cards. We've got Wimbledon's AI, what they're calling, I believe, ELC, yep, electronic line calling system, being criticized by the players. We also have Sam Altman and OpenAI cracking down on cybersecurity because of companies like DeepSeek wanting to take their models and glean all that hard work done by them and build their own models. We also have the breaking news of the last week. The biggest story in tech at the moment is Soham Parekh, the engineer that's been moonlighting for multiple YC startups or startups in general, and as a result has been called out, although he has found a home at an AI image generation startup. Let's see if he is able to do some incredible work there. We had Yunsu Tang on talking about comms and how she's building a startup for that. Really interesting approach. And also the fact that she's spent time in the East, and as a result can take some of those learnings and apply it to the way that we build product here in the West. We've then had Ivan on talking about startups in Spain, specifically the state of Andalusia and Malaga, and how he's building what is, or helping to turn the flywheel faster of the startup ecosystem there. Great place to live, great weather, access to capital, access to talent. If you're an investor, maybe it's time to look over there. If maybe there's going to be a $1 billion company coming out of there. Ivan believes multiple $1 billion companies will come out of Malaga over the course of the next 10 years, given that we don't even know where AI is going to land. We've just had Erith Philly on to talk about Gen Z, some of the market research that the Z-Link does, and also growing a Substack, growing a personal brand online, and how important it's been to both her and the business. She has published a book last year, and today she received a translated copy. So big day for Erith Philly. I think it's pretty awesome. Like, not every day everyone writes a book and has it published. We're going to have to get her back on the show at some point. But our next guest, a friend of the show, he's been on the master magician of email marketing, Cory Johnson. How are we?
I'm good. How are you?
I am absolutely amazing. Thank you so much, my friend. It's always a pleasure.
It's always a pleasure. No, it's really, really good. I really enjoy chatting to you. I think I find it useful, right, in general as well.
Yep, I believe so.
Yeah.
I believe so. I've taken a leaf out of your book. We're live streaming now, so I thank you for the opportunity to be like, yes, this can be done. Cory's leading the charge. Possibly one of the first live streams I've seen online. Cory, tell me, how's gaming on LinkedIn these days?
Gaming on LinkedIn is good fun. Yeah, look, I do like live streaming on LinkedIn. I think it's it's a fun thing to do because, as you know, Viraj, others might not know, I love doing things on LinkedIn which other people don't do. I want LinkedIn genuinely to be a different platform. I want it to be like a kind of replacement for Twitter. And that involves, obviously it's still going to be professional, right? It's still going to be, like for people developing their career, sharing tips and so on and so forth. But I think it can really fill that niche that Twitter now can't because it's overrun by bots. And so I want to try and bring a little bit of that informality, a bit of that fun into LinkedIn and play around with a bunch of different things that LinkedIn has experimented with in the past, but maybe hasn't, really pushed. So live streaming is one. I'm guessing you're live streaming this on LinkedIn right now, right?
This is being live streamed on LinkedIn right now. It has to be, right? We can call this alive and not have it live streamed.
Yeah, exactly that. So it's kind of, it's just really, LinkedIn loves to push live streams, but nobody pays attention to them usually, right? Unless it's like this conversational format where there's actually genuinely something interesting going on, right? Or it's something like live stream gaming or something like that. A lot of people push their corporate webinars and stuff, and that's fine. Mm-hmm. If people are interested in that, they can join. But I don't think people will. There's not been this sort of like genuine content on LinkedIn. Fun content as well. I stream, for example, I started out streaming Tomb Raider 3, the classic Tomb Raider 3 game. And recently I started streaming. I did it a couple of times so far. I've unfortunately been ill for the past couple of weeks, so I've sort of been off that a little bit. But I've started streaming Schedule 1. So it's a little bit of a dodgy game.
Interesting.
Schedule 1, it's a new Steam game where you
I like it.
You become a small business owner. Let's just leave it at that. And you have to make your way up through the ranks and so on and so forth. And actually, it's quite it kind of syncs in this kind of like irreverent way with LinkedIn quite well, I feel. So yeah, check out those live streams when they go live.
I think I joined the Tomb Raider one and I was like, what is happening here for a moment? And first off, I didn't realize you could hold attention for that long.
Yeah.
Like you personally could hold attention for that long, because obviously for email marketing, it's sort of like these very small snippets in what you do in your day job. And I was like, Cory, you're surprisingly good at this. Maybe this is a thing that should happen more often.
Yeah.
I think I joined the Tomb Raider stream for about 15 minutes to half an hour. I don't watch other people play games. It's just not my thing.
Yeah.
But you seem to captivate me.
I think there's I think it's genuine because I'm interested in the game, right? So it's one of those things that I played as a kid all the time, just repetitively. And so it's almost like for a lot of things, not every level, but for a lot of things, I know it inside out. And so I can sort of like talk about the history of it and stuff. It was like just something that I constantly played as a kid. So that's that. With Schedule 1, of course, it's the whole premise of the game is like both weirdly LinkedIn friendly and unfriendly. Like the subject matter of the game is not like, it's not exactly, just a Just to clarify, it's essentially you're a small-time drug dealer, right? You're trying to build a business and so on and so forth. So it's not exactly LinkedIn friendly, but also like
But the
there are
mechanics of it are growing a
mechanics
business, right?
It's all like
It's
you're
the same.
like, yeah, it's so strange. And a friend of mine from work recommended I play that game, and I think it works really well.
I think that when GTA 6 comes out, I don't know what year it's going to come out in these days. You've definitely, first day it drops, live stream.
I need a better computer for that though. Mine's a bit choppy at the moment. But no, I really do. I like GTA. I play it too nice. I never like going around like murder hobo like a lot of people do, right? I think
It's a bit much. I think that's what I found difficult about the game. I couldn't connect with it in that way. I know people play the storylines and sort of role play, but for me, I sort of stayed away from it. Just never really got into it.
Yeah.
Great game though.
Great game. I was more obsessed with doing the cheats and like flying the tank and stuff like that. That was all good fun when I was a kid. But yeah. How are you doing anyway? How's life?
Life's good. The stream is good. I mean, incredibly difficult building a docket, and gearing this up to go daily is must be just super difficult. I'm realizing that now is people don't realize what a live is and then go, no, I'm sorry, we can't do that. There's obviously a lot of podcasts are pre-recorded, and so transitioning over to this and just speaking, I realized that I have the stamina to go 3.5 hours, which is great.
Oh, you're doing 3.5 hours all today?
Yeah, so we're about in 2 hours. We're 2 hours 5 minutes in, and we've got one more guest, and then a wrap up is about 15 minutes to kind of go through. We do the news at the start of the day. It's about half an hour. It is difficult, but obviously nothing's worth doing if it's not difficult. And I get a lot of value out of this. And part of the reason of breaking it down into this ESPN style format is every single show that we used to put out on the podcast felt like a going out of business sell. Great conversation, deep, insightful, hour and a half like we did. But I then have to wait a week, and then you sort of stack the deck of, oh, there's 1 week here, there's the next week here, there's the next week after that. But I can't do 3 in a week because it's just too difficult running around London, trying to do them online. So how do you build something scalable? Just try to build it like a product. It's like, okay, how can I get 6 interviews in one session, but also get that live stream straight out, and it's topical and it's current? And the breakdown was, let's just do 5 to 6 interviews once a week to begin with, gear up to twice a week, and then get up to a daily show by the end of the year, bring some sponsorships in, give it a Bloomberg style feel. The guys over at European Technology Show and TBPN in the US are doing a very similar job, and they're both doing amazingly. I mean, TBPN has just cornered that American market. I think there's a play to be made for culture as well as tech and business, and having some of the more nuanced conversations. And then ETS, Seven, the guys are just going to absolutely dominate when it comes to technology, because they have that distribution with their weekly newsletter that they've been building. And so they're going to smash it there. And it's sort of like I sit in the middle. I think that the UK and Europe needs that. And you can sort of bridge out to the East as well, right? No one's doing this in Saudi Arabia. No one's doing this in the Middle East. No one's doing this in India. And so that time zone sort of works, but the US time zone is very difficult.
Yeah. I think it's a good idea. I think it's also quite genuine as well. You have those sort of like off the cuff comments and stuff like that, maybe that would get cut out in an edit, but people kind of like them, right? I think I do like Twitch streamers. I don't know about this before, so I do like Twitch streamers a little bit, sometimes for gaming, but I would say mostly for stuff like politics, reaction sort of stuff.
I didn't realize you streamed on Twitch.
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't stream on Twitch. I just look on Twitch. No, I don't stream on Twitch. I think
this will start streaming on Twitch at some point.
Maybe. Yeah. I'm not good enough at gaming or commentary or anything, I think, live to do Twitch yet. And it's also very competitive, right? I think there's so many people on Twitch. That's the benefit of LinkedIn. So one of the reasons why I wanted to do it on LinkedIn as well, vain person that I am, I know that when you go live on LinkedIn, everyone in your contact list, well, not everyone, but everyone you talk to,
it just gets prioritized in the feed.
Yeah, they get a nudge. They say, "Oh, Cory's live streaming now," and it's like, "Oh, what the hell? Cory's live streaming gaming?" And you click on it, right? And so with those original live streams, I maybe got like 300, 400 views, unique views. And again, is that much? No. Are they there for a long time, like yourself? No, maybe not. But still, on Twitch, you would get. You get zero. You get zero for years and years, right? There are people on Twitch right now who are streaming constantly for years and years with no viewers. And so Yeah, it's a whole different ball game. But LinkedIn, I genuinely think, LinkedIn doesn't seem to know what it wants out of its own platform, right? They keep releasing these new channels, whether it be video. Obviously, they've released LinkedIn Shorts, I guess we can
Yeah,
call it.
the LinkedIn Shorts, but they're not prioritizing the Shorts. They sort of
They'd
end up
like more-
prioritizing the horizontal feed, the
Yeah,
horizontal content, which is very odd.
people have noticed this. I was literally on a podcast recently. Blame it on marketing. I think I'll talk about this, right?
Yes, yes. How was that?
That was really good. But they were exactly saying the same thing. They produce really quality video with a lot of insights. Or for LinkedIn Shorts. I don't know. Is that what it's called? LinkedIn.
LinkedIn Video is what I think the team is calling it.
LinkedIn Shorts, LinkedIn videos.
LinkedIn product team, we need to get you on, talk about this.
And they produce a lot of videos with really cool content, little clips and stuff. But actually, what performs the most is just face on the screen all the time talking. And it's like, okay, that's kind of bizarre, right? I think LinkedIn's very, very good at spinning out a feature and making it look professional and making it quite easy to use. Their live streaming obviously is kind of glitchy sometimes, but by and by, it's quite easy to use. You just plug in something like Riverside as you're doing, or StreamYard or whatever. But when it comes to actually, I don't know, the execution of getting people to make the content, what content they want people to produce, I don't think they know. I don't think other people know. I don't think other people are inspired to know. It'd be interesting to see if there's another part of LinkedIn other than the feed that takes off, because at the moment video isn't. Live streaming, I think it goes in waves. Like obviously during COVID, it was very popular, and they've opened it up to a lot more creators now, which is great. Beforehand, you had to apply and stuff like that. So it might take off again, which will be really, really good if it does. I just don't know if LinkedIn has the direction beyond let's just try and make as much money as possible, which is fine. I mean, it's a business, whatever. Yeah, we all want to make money, right? But to get to that new level of actually having good, great content on LinkedIn, it's not really nurturing or prioritizing that, I think.
But I think that you're on the money there, because it doesn't know like what type of content does it want. Because I've seen businesses on very small businesses like a Taco Bell, I think in the US, is live streaming behind the counter on like just the operations day to day, right? And then they talk to the camera and the people are mic'd up. No, they do that on Twitch.
Yeah.
I think, like, don't quote me, I don't think it's Taco Bell, but there is a small business that does that. And that's great. That would fit great on LinkedIn, right?
You would think.
You would think, but it just doesn't seem to prioritize that sort of content. It's the outrageous takes or the very head first content. And
Stephen Bartlett.
Steve Bartlett. I mean, Flight Story does an incredible job with the animations, or Dial 20 VC. But I think that it will evolve out of that into something else. You talk about building a story in email marketing, right? And how you got to take someone on a journey throughout that, but you've got to hit all of the right notes quickly, cohesively and succinctly. And maybe they're just going through that transition. It's just going to take a long time.
If I were LinkedIn's team, right, and what I wanted to be like, right, because at the moment you're right. It's like Stephen Bartlett, it's the Prime Minister of Sweden. I can't remember you, VC20, right?
20
I think
VC.
what it does is they've got a list of about 100 people, right? And they're like, okay, their profiles, tick, 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 tick on a spreadsheet or database. We'll prioritize, we'll push their stuff. And so they're less interested, I feel, in promoting stuff that's made organically on LinkedIn, as opposed to getting people who have made their name elsewhere and bringing them into LinkedIn. So if I were on the LinkedIn team, if I were like responsible for sort of, I don't know, expanding, I don't know, new audiences on LinkedIn, I would be like to Ken Cheng, I would like to Ken Cheng. Holy hell, Ken Cheng, like you're really funny. Let's partner with you. Let's get your posts skyrocketing. Like we want younger people to come to LinkedIn. We want people to have a little bit of humor coming to LinkedIn. We don't necessarily want the always consistently hustle mentality culture bullshit or B2B SaaS bullshit that you get, right? But they don't seem to.
Because you can throw in his flair into those conversations, right, and into those posts, and like it's
Reddit
still prioritized.
Brilliantly. Reddit did it a few years ago with Wall
absolutely brilliantly
into Wall Street bets, and it worked really well for them, I think.
Yeah, and I think Ken Chan does an incredible job of just being funny online, right? Like he just does that really well. You introduced me to him, and I've had a blast just like his posts popping up, and like share of mind of in a feed. What do I remember? I don't remember the videos, but I remember this weird take that someone's given me of. And it's relatable to what I'm doing day to day. And it's probably relatable to hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. Yeah. Like I would do a disservice to the stream if we don't talk email marketing for a short second. So humor me for a moment. Like how do you take those learnings of someone like Ken Chang and apply them to an email inbox and rolling out newsletters or rolling out comms?
Yeah, this is why our chat last time was really, really good, because it's made me think a lot about actually how I do transfer learnings. And again, it's mostly subconscious, right? Like I think there's just too many takeaways in the day-to-day of how to write and how to write well than putting it down in a formula. I've tried a lot of formulas like ADA, attention, interest, desire. I can't remember the last one. Action, I think it is. And I've tried these things, and I'm like, yeah, I get it, but that's not the whole story, right? There's so many nuances within that D, within that I, within that A that you have to play around with. And so actually with LinkedIn, when I'm posting, I actually had to look back because I've been doing it consistently for about 6-7 months now, like almost every day posting a meme, sometimes twice a day, posting a shit post, for want of a better word, right? And just like what has worked and what hasn't. And obviously you've got more engagement because you're reaching more people and they're liking your posts and you're building that parasocial relationship. But also I do think I've genuinely got better at like knowing what people find funny, knowing what's a little bit more relatable than a bit niche, right? And I generally take that into my emails as well, right? There's the line where, I don't know, something on LinkedIn I can be a bit more irreverent. I wouldn't be as irreverent or jokey as or informal as it would be on a Reddit post, for example. But then again, like when I'm doing an email campaign, I have to tone it back even more. And so actually knowing different channels and what the audience expects and what you can push at to draw attention and what you can, sort of like I suppose it's the rules, knowing the rules, right? But then in the implementation of those rules, like posting consistently, writing emails consistently, you then learn where you can break those rules, which is where the power is, right? That's where the hooks are, in breaking the rules. And so, just doing it consistently and subconscious learning from LinkedIn, from email has just actually been really, really good for my writing in general, and has also got me thinking more in terms of structure. And we talked about this before, right? In terms of plot and structure and, like balance and pacing, even in longer form pieces of writing as well. It just gets you into that mindset where it's like, okay, that's important, that's important, that's important, that's important. And it becomes second nature, right?
Exactly. And I remember last time we were talking about how you would say no to certain comms things going out, right? It's like, does our audience want that in this manner, or actually is that just worth commenting at a later date and wrapping it into something slightly bigger, like ginormous funding round at the start of this year, Series D, 180 million or something. And does that need to go out in an email, or is it just the sake of another email?
Yeah, I think that's very true. We actually recently moved office, so we've got a fantastic new big office.
I saw. How's the new digs?
I have not visited yet, sadly, just because I have been ill. We've been moved in like last week.
Yeah, I saw Sadiq Khan was there, CEO, the whole team.
Huge new building, bunch of reporters, bunch of AI experts from around the world that come in. It's just really nice, and we've got a wellness room, which is nice. I'll be posting something about that. I think I've got an idea of a bit of content.
I'm going to give you a segment. I just want a live stream from the Synthesia wellness room.
You could literally do a podcast. It's like wellness.
I love it. Just give it the wellness segment.
Yeah, you could. No, but we've got all these sort of like mod cons of like a proper company now, which is amazing. The building is phenomenal itself. But again, like I think it works for socials. I think when you on socials, like, because it gives some employees something to brag about. It's like, I'm working for a real company that's really moving up in the world. We're proper. We're in the big leagues now. Look at our office. I think it makes sense. But were I to example, someone was like, and of course you've got to be diplomatic about this, right? Like if someone really wants an announcement about the new office in an email, you're going to do it, right? Of course you are. But if someone were like, "Oh, Cory, what do you think? Do you think we should announce to our customers via email that we've got a new office?" I'd be like, absolutely not, right? Like if customer success reps want to reach out and let their people know that they have a new office, they can do that if they find it useful. I just do not think. I mean, imagine like if you, Viraj, if you got an email from me that was like, "We got a new office," you probably wouldn't care, right? He
No,
probably
probably not. It's like you're an email,
Yeah.
you're an avatar company. Why do I care about the new office?
Yeah, you're like, that's very
And,
strange.
like if you
yeah.
had a cafe, sure, maybe like there's an avatar cafe or something along those lines.
Oh, I like that idea. That's actually a really good one. Yeah.
Just
Avatar.
bottom, you guys
Yeah.
have an espresso bar. People turn up, log
Yeah.
in, sign in. Just users coming through the door.
Yeah, that's very. Oh, that's very cool. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. No, but exactly right. So, and at worst, it's going to be like people are thinking, oh, so this is why they're charging us this. They're paying for this very flash office.
It's like they come in and they just see the great new building, the new build. Brilliant.
But I think I never quite get how consultants get around that, right? Like, your McKinseys and what have you. You're flown out to Saudi Arabia and you stay in an amazing like $10,000 a night suite in the Four Seasons Riyadh, and I'm thinking like that the Saudi Arabian company or government or whatever is paying for this. Do they think that's good value from? I don't know. Like it's very strong.
It's an interesting one. It is. Maybe they've got shares in the Four Seasons that allow for that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, I didn't think of it that way. Yeah. Maybe that's part of the branding that McKinsey stays here. Who knows?
Possibly. I mean, like, if you heard, like, just completely off topic and segment, if you heard about how they basically bankrolled DAZN for the FIFA Club World Cup?
DAZN. Who's DAZN?
DAZN's the streaming provider that's streaming the Club World Cup for free or for $1 or something along those lines. But it's all in preparation for the Saudi World Cup down the line. I just thought it was one of the best tactics to get people involved in football. I understand that Saudi's playing that game.
I would love to visit Saudi. I think it's kind of a crazy country, right? Like we can say that.
I think it's a really interesting place. We don't know a lot about it. We know that they're doing awesome things or not trying to be, but they are next up in the Middle East. Right?
Sure.
UAE's had its thing. Qatar had the World Cup. Now it's Saudi's turn to be put on the map. And from what I hear on the boots on the ground is that it's a world-class place to be. There's a great quality of life. There's a tech ecosystem. There are creators there as well. And they have quite literally one of the largest funds on the planet. And so access to capital is a little easier, and they're willing to invest and they're willing to take a risk as they wean themselves off oil.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious. So a lot of people obviously move to Dubai. I kind of mock it a little bit because I'm like, I had a meme that went quite popular about when the person you dislike the most moves to Dubai, and it was like I don't know if you saw that one, but like it has been something in my head. Sometimes I'll get in LinkedIn, someone will message me, they'll be like, we've got a position opening up in Dubai, and I'm thinking like, ooh, tax free, I don't know, maybe could I deal with it? Would you move to Dubai? Would you?
No, I wouldn't. I would not move to Dubai. From what I've heard, Dubai isn't the place. It's like, it's not for me. I've been there several times on holiday. I think the people there go there to take risks, and there's an environment where you have the ability to go and build something, right? I'm sure there's a great tech ecosystem, there's access to capital, but on the ground you don't know who's who, and everyone's a facade, and you've got to play that game. Would I move to the US? Oh God, it's so tantalizing right now, right? When in terms of the valley is the place to be, the connections are incredible, but probably not, because like everyone's going and building product, and is that what I want to do? Maybe not. Hollywood's a bit of a weird place right now. London, I love, but we're losing our city a little bit. I think that there's a lot of people moving out. The quality of life isn't the best. There is a lack of working hard and working smart, but I think we're getting back to that. Right?
I think we are. And also, like a lot of things, London's being drained of like people having to pay ridiculous rents. That obviously drains a lot of the balance. It means they can't start businesses. They're locked into their jobs. It means that there's a lot of crime that comes with that as well, like phone theft. And these things pile up. I mean, like the fact that like half the people I know in the office have had some attempted mugging.
I know. I mean, like that office is in central London. It's scary.
London. It's scary. It's frustrating. But I tend to agree with you. I've thought a lot about, where would I move? I actually don't live in London at the moment. I don't know if I told you this. I think I live in Bicester. So,
oh really?
It's 45 minutes to London. So,
what's that like? Like the commute? How are you finding that?
I find it fine. It's fine. It's really good actually. It's best of both worlds really.
I live in Epsom. I live just outside in Surrey. Yeah. For me, it's an easy access into the city. It takes a while, and so you're sort of disconnected from the humdrum that is like London.
See, I don't feel that. I feel the opposite almost. I'm in London almost every weekend. And so, whether it be going to a show or an art gallery or a friend's party or something like that, like my social life is mostly in London. So that's
My
interesting.
social life is non-existent because of the stream.
Oh yeah, good point. God, yeah.
Because you've constantly got to be online. The setup's here. It's like, oh, can I move? Should I move? But
yeah.
It's a good question. Where would I live? I love. We had Ivan on from Malaga, and he's helping build the startup ecosystem over there, or at least get the flywheel turning faster. I love the south of Spain. I think it's a great place to live, great food, great quality of life, but also because of the heat, you want to stay inside and therefore have nothing to do. So you just go and build something. So I quite like that.
Yeah, that mentality is cool. Yeah.
It's smart. You can then just run onto the beach. Where else?
Way though, I think that it's like London it's not perfect, like by any measure, and I think it's getting worse, and it's worse since the pandemic. Whether it be cost of living, whether it be illness of, the people just not getting the NHS services, with that mental, physical health, people, not having kids. That's a big problem, right? People can't afford to have kids, so
people can't afford to have kids.
Kind of dying from the core. But
but we love kids. They are our future.
Why problems with London? But you also, it's kind of like it has a lot of benefits as well that a lot of other places have. I think do position it quite strongly still, despite everything, as quite a good place to build a business. Synthesia is proof of that, right?
I think exactly. You have Synthesia, you have Veed. There are a bunch of healthcare tech startups that have raised a couple billion or hundreds of millions that have billion-dollar valuations. You have the second biggest creator economy in the world, like in the UK, who are in their own right, their own businesses. I think it's a great place to build a business still. And because everyone's wanting to go and build in the US, you have this opportunity to make something work here.
Yeah. And I think also there's different startup ecosystems around the world, right? One I've always been really interested in, because my partner is Indian, is India, right? So, and one thing I've heard negatively about the Indian system, the Indian startup economy, is that a lot of it is centered around taking ideas from other countries and giving them to an Indian market.
Yep.
You might like replace Uber Eats with, I think it's Rapido or something like that, right?
Yeah, they've got a bunch. They have like 3 or 4 now.
Yeah. And so that's a problem. So it's sort of like you just take ideas that are made elsewhere, but whereas the UK has a good blend of both, right? So yes, you have the US tech dominance where you've got Amazon. You don't really have a UK equivalent, but then you've got other things like Deliveroo. Deliveroo is a UK company, right? Yeah, I'm right.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. So that's like there, and obviously you've got US Uber Eats as well. But you've also got a lot of companies like Synthesia that are genuinely doing something new that other people aren't necessarily doing. I think, our main competitor is probably HeyGen at the moment in the space. Obviously, other companies would want, a slice of the pie, but HeyGen, that's a US-based company. But by and large, I think, that for a market leader like Synthesia in its specific AI video space to be in the UK is quite an interesting and powerful thing.
And having that enterprise dominance just allows for you to win in that space and then pivot to B2C, or at least build an offering there, right?
It's not a given, right? It's like maybe Sweden has a Klarna, maybe Denmark has a what do we call it, Novo Nordisk. It has these giants, but it might have 1 or 2, whereas London maybe has 10, 20, 30 at a time, which is great.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, do I think we're going to compete with like a Stargate project? Probably not. We don't have access to that amount of capital as a government or as a nation. Like, I'm willing to spend in that. Do we have the talent to the same degree as the US? Possibly not. But do we have, when I say talent, I mean the numbers of talent versus the quality of talent. We have incredible quality of talent in the UK and Europe. We just don't have access to that amount of capital that they can just go and write $1 trillion check, get SoftBank involved and go for it. But we have an opportunity to find our place in the world. And I think we're finding our feet in doing that. It's going to be a difficult number of years.
And the great thing is, despite hostility of successive governments, people still want to move to the UK, right? So like
it's very odd.
Saying, oh, by the way, screw you for paying tax. We don't want your highly skilled labor. It's like, despite that, people still want to move here, which is a fantastic thing.
I think that's what's beautiful about it. That's what's beautiful about it, right? It's like we have an ecosystem of wanting to attract talent to the UK and people to the UK, and not just tourists. We have a quality of life in London, outside of London. Manchester is a great place for design, and most of our greatest clothing brands seem to come from there and then come down into London. And we just need to invest in our country, right? The same way that Europe's investing in Europe, and we need to play together so that we're not just another offshoot from the US. But I think there is a lot of time that we need together to go through and build. And Synthesia is an example of doing that quickly and profiting out of it, and is a success case.
Yeah. How long have we got? We got a couple more minutes, or
I usually wrap it up after this. Cory, this has been wonderful. But we're going to have you back on, don't worry. When you when any news comes out, I'm here for you.
If anyone listening, give me a follow on LinkedIn. I share memes, shit posts every day. So
no, we love to see it. Cory Johnson, thanks so much.
Bye.
That was Cory. Went off on a little bit of a tangent. I enjoy Cory's company, and he's a friend of the show, and so we were able to have that blend. Cory works at Synthesia. He is the internal fixer for all things content, but also is the incredible man behind their email marketing. And so go and watch the podcast that we did with him a couple of weeks ago, if not months, where he's breaking down how he sends 14 million emails a year. Today's show, we went on a couple of different tangents. Cory started live streaming gaming on LinkedIn and is playing games that are business orientated, albeit slightly adjacent. And so seeing how that reaction's coming along, and how is LinkedIn prioritizing that content? Yes, but are people engaging? Probably not. We're unsure about what the platform is wanting to prioritize or wanting us to create. And more importantly, our next guest, Rami, who is, we've just released his episode. Rami, my friend, how are you?
I'm very good. How you doing?
I'm well, my brother. Thanks for coming on. This is always a pleasure. I love spending time with you.
Yo, I got this new microphone. I think I'm gonna sound immaculate.
You sound incredibly good. How do I sound?
Immaculate.
We love to see it. Rami, give us a little intro for the stream. I've directed people to go and watch the show. Give us an intro into you and Querio.
Absolutely. So my name is Rami. I'm the co-founder CEO of a data analytics SaaS called Querio, an AI data analytics SaaS, obviously. And we are the easiest way for teams to work with data directly. And we use AI agents to directly query databases so that people don't have to learn how to use SQL or bother their data teams. Lebanese. I've lived in London for about 3 years, and I'm very lucky to know Viraj for the last couple of months.
I'm lucky to know Rami. This is gonna be a lot of fun. I saw the post on OpenAI or on ChatGPT recommending Querio as a SaaS solution. Can you explain to me how you've done this, please?
I'm going to release a blog post today, actually, telling people how to hack the system. But yeah, they're calling it AEO or GEO or whatever you want. But there's a few sneaky ways to get AI systems to recommend you to their customers. Now, the problem, I don't know how deep you want to go into this, but
let's get all the way deep. That's what we're here for. We've got half an hour, and then I know you've got to jump, so I'm going to take it as it comes.
Yeah, do you want like the whole thing, start to finish?
Yes, please.
Right. Yeah, so okay, these systems do web searches whenever there's a prompt. They have their core data that they were trained on, but a lot of the time when you're asking someone like, what's the best data tool, startup data tool, whatever it is, they have to do a web search. And these systems literally will use Brave, or they'll use Bing, or they'll use Google, and they'll do some web searches, and they will look for things. So first and foremost, you need to, one, have a lot of content out about what you do. Your website, I'm trying to say organized. There's so many things. First of all, different AI tools use different things. So I think, let me actually pull up this blog post I'm writing so I can tell you exactly who uses what. But some of them prefer Reddit, some of them prefer LinkedIn, some of them prefer TechCrunch.
And so they're actively going and scraping those platforms, and then
well, they'll do a website and like they'll do a Google search of like best data tools inside TechCrunch or something, and look only for TechCrunch results, for instance. But I'll give you some more actual. So yeah, ChatGPT likes TechCrunch, Business Insider, and GitHub. Claude likes Wikipedia, Forbes, Stack Overflow. Perplexity likes Reddit, LinkedIn posts, and YouTube transcripts. Google obviously likes Google. And then they each use different indexes. So ChatGPT loves using Bing because they're owned by Microsoft. So you should be on Bing SEO if you want ChatGPT to see you. Claude uses the Brave browser. Perplexity does an internal internet crawl like on a bunch of different things. And then Google, Gemini obviously uses Google. So most people who used to do SEO never actually looked at Bing's SEO, but you could use things like Index Now is the name from Bing, where it can automatically like submit your sitemap to Bing all the time. So if you're unfamiliar with what a sitemap is, basically you should always, whether it's on Google SEO or Bing SEO, you should submit your sitemap, which is usually automatically created from things like Framer, but you might have to make one. And it basically gives these search engines the map to how to crawl through your website. So like the homepage connects to these subpages, which connect to these subpages, and it just kind of gives a breakdown of all the pages on your website. So making sure that Bing and Google have your sitemap means that you're going to get all your pages crawled with those systems, and then that'll make it easier for you to actually show up. You have tools like, I think it's called indexrusher.com. Yes, indexrusher.com, not affiliated with them, but you pay like $50 one time and they will make sure every day to submit all of your links to Google and Bing for you, for instance, if you wanted to do that.
And that's just ongoing.
Yes. So
really interesting.
Different search engines are used by different models, so that's one. Some of the criteria, they're used by both. Now, let's get into what it means for AI to look you up. So an AI versus Google is quite interesting thing. So Google has like page rankings. You can see how you slowly are recommended for certain terms, and you go from like 30th page, 20th page, 50th. You don't have that with ChatGPT, right? It is ruthless. It gives an average of 5 recommendations. There aren't no pages.
That's it.
Yeah, you get 5. That's it. Now, I think it depends who. So Copilot from what is it? Copilot from Google uses, I think, up to 7. ChatGPT uses 5. Claude gives you up to 4 responses, but generally it's like 4 to 7 recommendations when you ask. Now, whenever you're going to use tools to see like how you're getting AI to access your website, you need to not get confused that when an AI is scraping your site because someone had a web search, it doesn't mean that it's going to use your site in the answer. So
why
there's
is
3
that?
things. Well, it could have gone to your website and be like, okay, I'm not going to recommend this.
Okay.
You don't know. It could use some sort of like blog article that you have. Like I have a lot of blog articles that compare my competitors to myself, and I might use those blog articles just to learn more about that competitor and then only talk about them.
I see.
So
okay.
you have the actual crawling of your website by these models. Then you have the amount that they cite you. Usually if they crawl you, they're going to cite you if they use you in any sort of way. And then you have them actually recommending you. And it's you could find out if you're getting access like a real person or whether it's the robot. There's some websites that help you do that. But so you have to kind of keep in mind that you can be a cited source, and that means you got web search and then you got cited like from, I made this answer from these 5 sources, and you see like the +5 button and you click it and you'll see, or you can see in like the reasoning thing, like all the websites that access, you can be cited or you could be an inline answer. The dream is to be an inline answer. But a lot of the inbound I get from AI, most of the time, is just being a cited source.
And that inbound, are those qualified leads, so to speak, or are they just not intent at all? Or just people just looking at what a good unstructured
hard
tool
right now.
does?
This is where my knowledge gets a bit shaky. But like most of the inbound is just an AI scraping my website. It's not a real person, and it's hard to know how often you're recommended inline.
So what would you need to see? You would need to see the person instead of just the percentage that you're seeing. And so maybe you actually see the amount of users that are querying versus just the percentage of how many times you showed up.
Yeah, so I think you can see how often you have like chatgpt.com accessing your website, which will usually mean that it is a crawler. And I think there's probably some way to figure out if someone came from there, and like there's a kind of a different URL they access, or maybe that they came from ChatGPT, but then they actually scrolled around and went to more than one page in that same session. That's probably how you can differentiate that someone's a real person. But it's a bit hard to track whether you are an inline answer. And then you have companies like Profound who do this kind of hacky thing where you'll tell them the top 10 prompts that you want to rank for, and they will just ask that same prompt 1,000 times to ChatGPT.
Oh, so it's just like a prompt factory. They just sit there and just churn them out.
Yeah, to see how you rank with ChatGPT, yeah, because they can't actually track when it uses inline answers. So they'll do that instead.
Very interesting. So what is it, moving forward, what do you want from ChatGPT, or what do you really want from these companies to see from your end as a business?
Man, there's so many more things to this. Like you have the fact that if you're a startup and you ask ChatGPT, what are the best startups for data analytics? It'll go to Crunchbase and it'll only filter for startups that have raised at least a seed. So
Ooh, okay.
Querio won't show up because we didn't raise a seed yet, which is really
Right.
annoying. And then something you can do if you want to get better at, this is one thing I do a lot, which is I will ask ChatGPT like a prompt I like what are the best kind of text to SQL or like AI business intelligence tools. It'll give me the responses, and then like, okay, I want you to break down in as much detail as possible your exact web searches and how you found these recommendations. And it'll tell me, okay, I did a web search into these 5 sites. I looked into Crunchbase, I looked into this, I looked into that. Here are the actual keywords I use. Here are the actual search terms I use. And then you can
And so
take those
it breaks
and
it
go
down for you,
make,
then you can.
yes, and you can go make articles from them, or you can feed them into an AI slot machine that makes articles, whatever it is. So that's something I think that had a very large effect for me, was using that system to make more and more directly related articles. That way, if it looked on Google for that exact keyword term, I would come up because it's a niche set of words that now I have an exact article for, which is really nice. They also don't usually look at your website if you don't have pricing. They are less likely to recommend a website with no pricing. They're less likely to recommend a website that has not had a seed round. They're definitely not going to recommend a website that is not indexed for Bing and Google. And then they will look at things like G2, Gartner, TechCrunch, Reddit, LinkedIn, etc. So all those more like dark SEO stuff before of like all those random backlinks so you can become on the first page of Google doesn't work as well, because they're looking for very exact things, and they're doing like more robust searches of like in website with search term this plus that kind of thing. So all that kind of stuff kind of goes down the drain a bit, and a lot of the classic SEO stuff that people used to do as like hacky are gone. Because then you have people who are doing really shady shit. So for instance, they all love Wikipedia. That's one of the resources everyone
Wow.
loves.
Yeah, of course it's been trained on, right?
Yeah, and they love that shit. So you see some people will like pay somebody to change a Wikipedia page who's a trusted Wikipedia editor to include a reference to a startup in like the AI page. Shady. Or you'll see the top 5 citations for a prompt you like, and then you will have someone not make a new one, but find the exact URL that they've been asking and change the content on that page and like pay that writer to keep the URL, but change the content to be about you.
And so we're going back to these dark pools of SEO. It's just a different version of it now.
There's always shady stuff.
Are you going to be prioritizing this as like as a go-to-market strategy for content?
Yes and no. I think I'm doing a lot of SEO stuff already, so I think I'm going to prioritize it in a way that maximizes both. I think in 2 to 3 years, this is a losing battle. I think that once all the big guys figure things out and it's pay to play, and then there's advertisement and things like that, I'm not going to be able as a pre-seed startup to get into TechCrunch and Wikipedia and have a ton of responses on Reddit. Like you will definitely see kind of like asymmetrical winners, right? But I think for the next couple of years, I don't know how it's going to end up patching out. I can't see the future, right? But like for me right now, for the next couple of years, like, okay, I think I can figure this out to get some traffic, and it's citing me. And I had someone book me last week, said we found you on ChatGPT. That's amazing. But I just wonder how long I can just, this is guerrilla marketing as a startup who's moving fast, who looked into the details. I understand how these things work now, and I want to win. And I think maybe I can get enough foothold over the next 2 years and hopefully actually be a big player that has all those big articles that I stay recommended. Who knows?
I love it. You see, this is the future of guerrilla marketing. It's getting into the details, being technical, and understanding what actually is happening versus just making content for the sake of making content.
Exactly. But yeah.
How's the business otherwise? Querio, explain unstructured data for me. Like why, obviously we've had the podcast, we've gone into depth there. We've talked a bit about, one of the bits we didn't get to touch on was, and we sort of glossed over it in the show, raising capital is a necessity. It's an obligation. It's not something it's not an achievement. Can you explain to me that statement?
Yeah. I think, I don't know, with the birth of YC, with the birth of gaming the system for these things, I feel like a lot of people view fundraising as a milestone for a startup. And most startups need fundraising. Like, let's be honest, even if you are trying to just quit your job and work on something full time, I can see this idea of like, you want to raise money to give yourself some security, to have a small team, like all that stuff's fine.
I've considered it even for this.
Yeah, it's not, I think it's very negative to view it as an accomplishment, because at the end of the day, it's kind of like, I had this guy the other day, he was telling me about how he wants to build an acquirable business. an acquirable B2C play.
Okay.
And I was like, dude, there's no such thing. If you focus on getting users and you focus on making like and disrupting the space that has some incumbents in them, they will reach out to you to buy you because you're figuring something out and you're growing faster with a user base that they want than they can. Right? You don't have to focus on being acquirable. You actually just have to focus on the fundamental problem. And he also had mentioned how, you know, he said that it makes sense because I had actually built a previous startup that was very fundable, but didn't actually do anything useful. So we had a big ticket name CTO and a big ticket name like founding engineer, but they weren't actually good at running a startup from 0 to 1 because they worked at big tech corporations and they weren't able to get a foothold to like make revenue or figure out what the customer wanted or build that first product. And it looked good for the investors, but at the end of the day, you know, the fundraising should have been a tool for them to achieve their goals, not necessarily an accomplishment or designing your startup around being fundraisable. So I think when I say that to people, it's just like, you need to think that I want to build this company. What are my actual holes? What do I need to hire a team? Do I need to find a co-founder? I can't find a co-founder. I need to hire. Okay, like there should be a very bottoms up understanding of what do I need capital for? Am I trying to grow fast and skip profit initially? Is that why I need capital? Something like Querio, where it's a very high capital intensive cost to begin with. Am I trying to like close some gap? Whatever it is, you need to. I think the best way to fundraise is to actually legitimately have a bottoms up like first principle of I have a solid reason to need money. I need to find it for this to work. There's no other way. And whereas when people just start off a startup saying, okay, well, step one is raising money. Like, no. It's always the same step. Build a product people want and have them pay for it. And if something's getting in your way and that's capital, okay, then go to fundraising. But I just think a lot of startups be a lot better off with that fundamental approach to it. You know?
It's nice that you get to hit the notes and, you know, celebrate the successes of a fundraise, right? It's like you do the series, you do the pre-seed, you do the seed, you do the series A, and it's great. You hit the milestones. But I agree with you that it's just the business requires this capital investment. So just go and do it.
Yeah. And I think psychologically it helps you. Like, I think, you know, raising is a lot like dating, and you have to play the game. You have to come off sexy. You have to come off desirable. You have to, you know, find someone to write that first check to because a lot of VCs are mimetic and they only write second ones and they wanted initially they risk whatever it is. When you're in that mindset of like, I'm building a business, I just need to raise capital and like not taking it as some sort of milestone, or a lot of first time founders feel like they have to convince someone to take a bet or that convince that investor to do them a favor almost. And I think putting yourself in the mindset of like, I'm building a business, I need capital, just keeps you professional and keeps the dynamic a bit more balanced. I think it psychologically helps people as well when
So
they.
it's sort of mountain you're trying to climb. It's just another course of, it's just another day in the business. Is I need this cash to continue operating. Let's just go find the capital.
Yeah, versus raising capital as a way to justify that it's even worth building what you want. And I feel like it just makes you go from, it just helps the power dynamics, and it'll help you pitch better. It'll make you be taken seriously because people can smell desperation. If you're looking for a fundraise to give you the self-esteem that you have a good enough idea, you're in the wrong place, you know?
No, it's an egotistical game, isn't it? It's like someone hands you a check for 250,000 or 500K you've never had before in your life. I can see why someone might think, oh my God, this is a whole lot of capital. And you've never had the discipline of running a business that requires that amount of capital, or even never seen that much in your life. So it's understandable, but I think you raise a good point here in that just get on with it. Just go build the product, build something that people want, make sure they love it, and then continue to iterate.
It'll make it easier to raise. But again, if you're raising thinking that if a VC trusts me and gives me money, that means this idea is worth building, you're thinking about it wrong. If you legitimately prove that you know why this is needed and someone's willing to pay for it, the money's going to come. There's like this intrinsic confidence will come with like, I know this company would work with capital and I know I'm going to get it and I just need it, versus, well, if I don't get capital, then maybe it's not a good enough idea. You know, these people are smarter than me. It's like, no, man, you're going about it the wrong way. Focus on getting the users. The acquisition will come. Focus on building something people want. The money will come. It is hard to find businesses to invest in, you know, but yeah, I don't know. Just, it shouldn't be the way that you define success, because then you're not focusing on the right thing. And it's like a catch-22. But yeah, the most amount of money I've ever seen on a bank account was the fundraise. Like the last one we had. I'd never seen.
What was that like?
kind of weird. You get over it really quick, and then you suddenly realize it's not that much money. When you're running a business, it just burns. It burns. You're just like, fuck.
It's that burn rate, and you're running a SaaS company as well, right? So it's just like you keep adding heads, and that burn rate just keeps going up.
We actually don't have a high burn rate. Like one of our largest investors called us the other day, like, you guys need to spend more. It's like, what? We never tell our portcos to do this. You guys don't spend enough. We'll get there. Relax. I'm not rushing to spend.
Let me ask, why don't you?
Man, I just don't like throwing money at problems. I don't have that kind of fuck you money to throw money at problems. You know, like we're trying to figure out a better go-to-market motion to grow faster, right? I'm not just gonna hire a salesperson like, okay, well, this will fix it. Like, no, it won't. It will just spend more. The amount of time people hire the first go-to-market like engineer or like growth team and it just flops. It's like those kind of hires are really good for adding gas to an already lit fire, but it's just I'm very confident that I will not end up having a higher chance of success if I am outsourcing or paying for, there's two things every startup does. If you really get abstract, build something and sell it. To sell it, and when you're this early stage, they're related, right? Like I will change my roadmap a bit if I notice that a lot of the sales conversations I'm having are leaning towards like, oh, they all really want this feature. They all really want, like, a lot of people have been asking for embedded analytics. They want to give Querio to their customers. So we're going to do design partnerships this month with 3 people who are willing to put their money where their mouth is and actually build it out. But that kind of connection between like product and sales happens as a founder, and you need to be like Play-Doh. You need to be malleable at first because you might have the right direction, but you need some massaging, right? Who are the ICPs? How do you actually find them and all those things? And then when it comes to, let's say, getting better at the messaging or at the cadence or at the volume or at the tooling, it makes sense to hire someone for go-to-market. And then when right now we need like what, 2-3 customers a month to hit all of our growth targets. That's not a lot, dude. Like, what else am I going to do with I'm the CEO of a SaaS company, and my full-time job is just to sell. If I can't sell 2 to 3 people, there's a larger problem. Like, how am I worthy? Like, how am I going to build a company if I can't even sell to 2 people a month?
Yeah.
What do my investors invest in? What do they invest in? They're investing in me as a capital allocator? No. But then later on, when I need to get to like 15, 20 customers a month, okay, I need to hire someone who knows how to build a sales team. I don't know how to do that. That makes sense. Someone who knows how to do incentivization structures, who knows how to hire SDRs and account executives and like kind of get into the more formal sales world. Yeah. Okay, hire someone. But this early, and you ask me why I'm not spending more. The number one problem we have right now with the bottleneck is like we need to grow faster. Okay, cool. I think that I'll be ready to spend more when I have a bit more figured out. And then I'll toss all the money at this because at least I know that first principle, I have a clear problem that I know how to get people, but I need to find more of this exact type. And I need to get more efficient with how I do my sales process. Let me get someone who can help me with all this stuff, double my output and help improve the process. Okay, yeah. But to bring someone with this like ethereal figure something out, no one's gonna figure that out better than I am.
And that's why they invest in Rami.
Hopefully they'll invest again. We'll see.
No, I'm sure they will. We're going to get you to a series. We're going to get you to a seed, a series A. My whole goal since meeting you is like, I want to get to the point where you either IPO or sell off the business. And we're just going to do these like every couple of months. And
That'd
we're
be
just gonna
fun.
follow this. This is that's the point of the show, right? It's just bet on some really, really small companies because you can't get access to the series A unless you have this previous relationship. Document their journey and give them a distribution channel, make it fun and interesting so that they get content out of it. They're going to go off and create their own. Like give them an opportunity to speak on a platform amongst other CEOs, operators, COOs, CSOs, CIOs, creators, people building businesses. It's cross-pollination of content, cross-pollination of ideas. You might see something over here that you go, yeah, actually, that's our target ICP. Let me go connect to him or her. And it's a great way of just building relationships as well. Plus, it's a fuck ton of fun.
It is a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying all of your content. I think you're going in the right direction constantly.
It's a work in progress. I've got to show you the what I've mocked up for what this looks like in future iterations. I'll do it offline. I know you've got to jump. You've got some sales calls to take. So I'll let you. I'll let you go. I've been live streaming for almost 3 hours now. So
I see that 2 hours 53 minutes. That's crazy.
It's a long time, but you do the hard things. You do them well, and people show up.
Hey, what's your favorite color?
Red today.
Red. Okay, like dark red, burgundy, or like
it's like a deep maroon blood red, like a royal red.
Okay, interesting. Okay, I'm gonna give you 5 carbs. Rank them.
Okay, let's go for it.
Pasta, potatoes, noodles, rice, and bread. Number one.
Potatoes
Potatoes number
today.
one. Okay.
Then it's pasta.
Pasta.
Then it's noodles.
Then it's noodles.
No, actually, then it's rice. Then it's noodles. Then it's bread.
Interesting. Okay.
However, I don't eat them in that order. It's probably just a favorite order.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's just interesting. I thought you put like rice first and noodles.
Noodles? No, I'm not the biggest fan of noodles. Honestly,
What do you mean?
Thai food, and Chinese food, and Oriental food in general. I've
Noodles
never
are
been a
so
noodles fan, even though pasta is basically noodles.
I would definitely put rice and noodles like my top two.
Rice you can do a lot with. I've realized, like after living in India for a year, you can do a lot with rice.
You can do a lot with rice.
You can turn them into bread and turn them into like rotis.
So I got a rice cooker. My life has changed.
Oh, we're coming over. Give me an invite.
I'll cook for you, dude. I got you. I love cooking for people.
Phenomenal. Rami, this has been an absolute pleasure.
Appreciate
I'm
you,
looking
man.
forward to having you on again. We're going to get the rest of the team on as well, so I might have to reach out to them.
Yes,
see you
please.
soon, my friend.
All right, bro. Bye.
Guys, that was Rami. Rami's building Querio. It's unstructured data, querying unstructured data. He's one of the most prolific founders that I've met. He's probably going to go a very long way. The show just came out with him last week of how he's been saving Amazon $55 million a year in his previous role. And so since leaving, probably about 200 million. If we just compound the math, I'm sure Rami will jump in the comments and talk about why I'm not right. But hey ho. Guys, we're going to wrap up the stream very shortly. Just to recap, we had Yunsu Tang on first talking about building her startup in the UK, moving from Hong Kong, and stakeholder intelligence and how she's building an AI startup in that space, but also the London scene of people, startups, and content, right? We then had Ivan on the show talking about Malaga startups and building the flywheel on steroids to allow capital to be invested into founders and ideas, and then building what is essentially the pipeline of a founder's factory so that individuals understand that they can take risks, they can go and build hardware and software, and they can do that by a beach in the south of Spain. And that is a great environment to do it. Just look at San Francisco. We then had Erifili on the show talking about Gen Z and the Z-Link. Cory, who is a friend of the show as well, came on. We started on the tangent of live streaming. We went off on a very interesting conversation, and it's wonderful that we get to do that on Ventures. And then last but not least, Rami, who's building Querio. I will link these all in the links below, post the show, talking about one, how do you rank in AI search? What are the LLMs using? What is Google using? What is Claude using? What is ChatGPT using? What is Perplexity using? And then also talking about fundraising and why it's an obligation for a business and not an achievement. Just go fundraise. It's going to make you feel better about yourself. You're not going to have the guilt or having to look up to an investor, and that power dynamic becomes a little better. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Ventures. We will be live streaming weekly. We have a double header this week, today and tomorrow. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow at the same time. Have a wonderful day. This is Ventures. Welcome to the Ventureverse.